Visit Food Finder's Hub to locate a trusted butcher near you and elevate your next meal. Tap, follow, and join our community for more incredible local food discoveries. Let's support quality and taste together.
Cluck, cluck. Wake up your mind. Moo. Fill up your day. Oink, oink. Smart little bites that brighten your way. You're listening to Food for Thought Radio. Here at FFTradio.com. Cluck, moo, oink. Food for Thought Radio. Here at FFTradio.com.
No, order, sit and leave.
This is the best political satire broadcast in the universe.
Order! I say to the honourable gentleman, give me this.
You are listening to Fockham Hall with Eric von Essex.
Good evening and welcome to another exciting show. And joining us tonight is Patrick from Wisconsin and our, was it Cheese Ambassador and Last Zulu Outpost. So good afternoon, Patrick.
Fuck 'em greetings to you.
That sounds good. And a little bit later on, we've got Donald Jeffries joining us. He's going to be a little bit late because he's having a birthday lunch today. So we'll all wish him happy birthday. Well, it was actually on the 19th of this month.
Happy belated birthday.
That's right. Happy belated birthday. And it's 3:00 where he is in America. So he's just finishing his Brussels sprouts probably. And he'll be joining us a little bit later, but he's definitely coming along. So tonight, we're going to have a sort of whole range of topics, but you've come up with a fascinating one, Patrick. It's about a relative of yours. And let's see if people can guess. Jimmy Stewart acted a film in 1959 about this famous relative. And this famous relative of yours just about took off. And he had a spirit with him, the spirit of St. Louis. And that was Charles Lindbergh. So far away, Patrick.
Yeah, what made me think of this topic, I was listening the other night to Timothy Kelly, who does a regular show called Our Interesting Times, and he had a man on who was talking about the Lindbergh baby kidnapping and murder, which, I don't know, what did that make the rounds over in your neck of the woods over in the UK there?
I don't know because I wasn't born.
No, but you know of the incident.
I know of it,
it's
yes.
Quite,
it is
well known here.
Charles Lindbergh was well known here and his exploits, and we know about also his Second World War, how he extended the range of Lightning aircraft. So
yeah, the Lockheed, what was it? That
yes.
It's got like two different. What was that? That was a very unique looking.
Fork-tailed devil, what they called it, and
yeah, it almost looked like the fuck. What do they call it? The mosquito, the de Havilland mosquito.
It was like a kind of American version of a mosquito, but it wasn't made of timber like the mosquito was. And I lived just up the
Howard
road.
Hughes. Howard Hughes invented it, if I'm not mistaken.
What was that?
Or helped collaborate on that. Howard Hughes?
Not the
he was
mosquito.
another aviator.
Oh yes, he did the Spruce Goose, didn't he? That was.
Yeah, he also helped with that plane. I'm trying to think. What it wasn't
Lightning.
a F-2. Yeah, it was the Lightning.
Lockheed. No, not Lockheed. That was later. But
where's Maleficus Scott when we need him? He knows all of these details.
Well, I used to be a bit of a. I used to be an aircraft nut. But when I think of the Lightning, I always think of Lockheed. But no, it isn't Lockheed. But no, the Lightning, it was a fork-tailed devil, and they extended the range in the Pacific, and that's what Lindbergh did. and he uses similar techniques as what he used on the Spirit of St. Louis. But I actually live up the road to where the Mosquito was actually first test flown, not far from it, and it was the Wooden Wonder. Did he have a Mosquito? And I don't think the test plane's there, but they have got a Mosquito at this airstrip, which is not that far from me. It's in Hertfordshire. It first flew, and they call it the Wooden Wonder because it's built of timber and it's very fast, incredibly fast. But back to Charles Lindbergh. He had an interesting father as well, didn't he?
Yes, he did, and that's how my family relates to the whole Lindbergh story in Minnesota. They're originally from, the family itself. The father was originally from Sweden, and he was actually a member of the royal court in Sweden, and then moved to America. And I have a book by Bruce L. Larson that's signed by Charles Lindbergh Jr. just a couple of years before he died, and it's about his father. It's a biography of his father. It's Charles Lindbergh Sr. And so Charles Lindbergh Sr.'s father is from Sweden, and he moved here, I think, close to Wisconsin, the Wisconsin-Minnesota border, and then moved into Minnesota and built a cabin, and then he built a timber construction house, and as he was milling the logs for his house, he fell on the mill blade, the saw blade, and on his left side cut his chest open, cut off his left arm, and his chest was cut open, and when they brought him to the hospital, the people who brought him could see his heart beating inside of his chest.
Oh my godfathers.
That's how bad it was.
Oh, poor man.
He raised Charles Sr., no arm, worked for a bank, a local bank there. Augustus was his name, and raised Charles Sr., who became a politician and a congressman for Minnesota, and was the main opponent of the Federal Reserve Act and the money trust that created the Federal Reserve. And it eventually passed in 1913, and I was just rereading part of the story of that. In 1911, his daughter was getting married in Little Falls, and she became very ill, and he was in the process of opposing the money trust, which are the private central bankers at the time. And what was being proposed before the Federal Reserve was called the Aldrich Plan, and he was the loudest opponent of it. And he had just proposed that we abolish our Senate, which would include the vice presidency. So he proposed that we abolish the vice presidency and the Senate, which I suppose the equivalent in your case over there in Parliament would be the House of Lords.
House of Lords, yeah.
Yeah, because it's a minority, and they're not typically Democrat. They weren't originally voted by a popular vote. They were voted by members of Congress. So
very similar. The old boy network.
It's the old boy network.
Yeah. So
exactly.
It's like the House of Lords weren't voted for.
Yeah, and Charles Lindbergh was actually instrumental in helping to get passed legislation which made it a popular vote for senator, which previously to that it wasn't. But he was proposing to abolish the Senate, and he came down with just not random food poisoning. He thought he was going to die.
Now that's a strange coincidence, isn't it? Now we're talking about your great grandfather, aren't you? Because it would be
okay. So let me explain how I'm involved in this. My grandfather Jack LaFawn lived with me the last 10 years of his life. He died when he was 94, and he told me a lot of stories. And he gave me this book, and it's signed by Charles Jr. So my grandpa actually met Charles Jr., the aviator. And my great-grandfather, so my grandfather's father, he grew up with Charles Lindbergh Jr. in Little Falls, Minnesota. And according to my great uncle Gino, Charles Lindbergh used to land his airplanes in the farmyard of my great grandpa. And my great grandpa's great aunt was married to Charles Lindbergh Sr. And they had 2 daughters together, and she died while he was becoming a politician at the beginning, and of a routine surgery. So he remarried a woman from Michigan, brought her back to Little Falls, Minnesota, where they lived, and had Charles Lindbergh Jr., the aviator. And so my great-grandfather grew up close to the 2 daughters that were left, of Charles Sr.
Amazing. These famous people. It's really quite surprising. But with the Federal Reserve Act, because the Federal Reserve, as the common saying, is as federal as Federal Express. I mean, it's an independent bank. A lot of
if we talk to Survival Steve, he'd say that it's all corrupt. Even if it's federal, it's a corrupt organization in a way. The American government,
the banking system is corrupt.
Well, no, I'm talking about the government system.
Oh,
too,
yes,
in that regard.
But
from
also,
the time of the Revolution onward.
But the Titanic, I think that's involved as well, because a lot of people on the Titanic were against the Federal Reserve, and they were sailing across to America.
Yeah, and one of them was the founder of Quaker Oats, who was from Minnesota and a big backer of Charles Lindbergh Sr.
Really, that's interesting. But the strange thing is, going back even further, the Boston Tea Party, apparently the taxes that the British were putting on America amounted to, and you can check this out, 3%. 3%. That's what the people are angry about. 3%.
Right, to pay for the French and Indian War.
Yeah, 3%. That's it.
Yeah.
What we pay in this country now is phenomenal. I mean, it's just, they tax you on your savings in this country. If you've got savings in the bank, they'll tax you on that.
Yeah, and it was only fair that they taxed the colonists because they had just supported them in fighting a war against the French. It's like, great, we helped you. Now you're going after us because we're asking for compensation for our soldiers and equipment that we used to help you fight the French. You'd be under the French right now if we hadn't helped you.
Precisely.
And they're backstabbers.
Oh, crumbs. Yeah. I mean, when you look about backstabbers, you've only got to look at Lawrence of Arabia. The tribes were disheveled. When I say disheveled, they had petty arguments and things like that. And this is the Middle Eastern tribes, and he got them together to fight the Germans in the First World War. And what they did, Britain went back on their words with these tribes. They was going to offer them autonomy after the war, but they didn't. Instead of that, they got a country that we're not allowed to criticise in 1917, the Balfour Agreement. So, and it's strange that Lawrence of Arabia died in a similar way on a motorbike. And there were some similar things to the Diner death, a mysterious car, and a long time before he got to hospital, all things like that. Very strange. And Embryo has just come in and said, hang on, I've taken it off accidentally, and said Jacob Astor was aboard the Titanic or the Olympic. Yes, sorry about that. Yes, the shall we say the Olympic that had the plate of the Titanic on it. Then we don't. Yes, and he was against.
It's just more commonly known as Titanic.
Yeah,
that's the main
allegedly.
Yeah,
but John Haynes
masquerading.
Yes, John Haynes got a lot of evidence that it was the Olympic, and he spoke to relatives at the dockyards in Ireland where it was built, or where they went in for dry dock, and they said that their great uncles and that they all knew that the switch had been made. It's common knowledge in Northern Ireland.
I think Maleficus Scott had on the relative of the captain.
Really?
I was able to ask him questions about
Good
that
heavens.
because he's under the same impression that it was an insurance claim with the military,
Yeah.
and they didn't want to fix it, so they swapped ships.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what they did do. And well, it's a bit like a 9/11 job as well, isn't it? Big insurance payout. So, but
Deception.
going back to Charles Lindbergh. Now, as I say, Charles Lindbergh Senior. He was against the Federal Reserve. There's a few other things that he was very controversial about. That he sounds a jolly good chap to me. So, far away, Patrick.
Yeah, he had a number of proposals in Congress that never got passed, but they were very very good proposals, I think. They were failed proposals, one of them being the Senate, the resolution in the Senate to, well, the first one, okay, I've got a list of them here. There are a number of them. The first one was congressional investigation of the money trust. And he did that December of 1911.
Yeah.
The money trust being these trust fund organizations that no one has access to who the members of the trust are, how they were created. It's the private banks, the central banking system that we have now, which is just shaded in all sorts of mystery. Where, for instance, our friend Paul English talks frequently about going to the Bank of England and asking for a list of the shareholders.
That's right.
Where it's just, under a veil that you're never going to be told it because it's none of your business.
Yeah.
So that's the type of mentality that was being acted upon, and that's the reason. That's why I share that story, because it reminded me of that, where he was poisoned after he started going after the money trust, because that's the big money. That's the people that run things today. And the big one at the time, the organization here in America was it was based in Chicago, Illinois. Which, if you're aware, Chicago, that's where we've got used to be the tallest building in the world, the Sears Tower.
Yes.
Sears Roebuck was the biggest corporation in America at one point, probably around that time. And he pointed out this company that exists, or this group that exists to this day. It's called the Commerce Club of Chicago. And it's all the big bankers and that are part of this cabal of money people. It used to be called the Merchants Club. Mm-hmm. And they made a lot of their fortune. I researched a bit into it before they got into printing money, counterfeit printing money. They were into gambling, into you can find poker chips, casino chips that have the imprint of the Commerce Club or the Merchant Club of Chicago from the turn of the century. That's what they dealt in: casinos, gambling, that kind of thing. And shipping from Europe, a lot of, the ships that come in through the St. Lawrence Strait near Quebec end up coming into the Great Lakes from the ocean and then down to Chicago. Chicago's probably one of the busiest ports in our country outside of New York City for just back and forth trade, especially our export trade going out, especially for like grains and anything that the Midwest produces. Like John Deere tractors is from Illinois, for instance, which is our biggest tractor company.
We don't have
farming implement company.
I don't think we have them over here. Although the Bollrat farmer might know differently. But our one is JCB. Is our tractor.
Well, International Harvester, do you have that? Because that's another corporation that.
Again, that would be something that the Bollrat farmer will be able to answer. I'm nothing to do with farming, but all I know of is say, do you have JCB where in America?
What's JCB stand for?
I don't know what it actually stands for, but that's the name of the company, called JCB, and they make building site tractors and diggers and things like that. I think they're probably more European than anything else. You see them all over Europe. They're English firm, and they are ignoring the push for electricity to electric vehicles, and they are going for hydrogen. Good for them. They're abandoning the idea of electric because they made a hydrogen engine. So I hope they succeed with it.
Huh. Yeah, fuel cell.
Oh, hang on a minute. Embryo has come in and said, we have John Deere tractors. They are green and yellow. So they
Yep.
are. Yeah, we do.
Yep.
So I've learned something there. So hang on, why isn't that showing up on the screen? Should do. There we are. And Pink Planet said, yes, we do have John Deere. So there we go. I've learned something there. You learn something every day. So if
Well,
someone in
slap my
future
thigh.
comes, slap my thigh. Somebody says, sorry, mate, you know, because I don't really, I don't see that many tractors now. They're built all around me.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. You're in kind of a urban area, somewhat. They're not urban, but you know what I mean.
Well, it
Built up.
was. It was.
Probably all farmers'
Surra-
fields like here.
Yeah, it was surrounded by fields. My garden was next to a field, but now they bastards are built on it. But
Yeah,
they've still
the
got
same
a
here.
farm. Yeah. Oh, by the
Suburban
way,
sprawl.
JCB stands for, this is Embryo said this, Joseph Cyril Bamford. I didn't know that. So I learned that. So not many people know that.
Well, here in Minnesota, we have a company that goes back to the founding of the state of Minnesota called Pillsbury. Have you ever heard of Pillsbury?
Oh, we have Pillsbury dough, yeah.
The Doughboy.
The Doughboy, yeah. We have Pillsbury dough. And
Which was in the 1850s, I think. Around that time, they started that. Because before we had electricity, it was mills on the river. And then the Pillsbury factory milling operation was one of the first electrified generators in our, I think maybe in the country, at least in Minnesota, because they ran off of hydroelectric. 'Cause you got all that free energy of the river running.
So the trouble is hydroelectricity. That's the trouble. How do they charge people for the electricity when it's free? They'll find a way. But so what we do have, what we used to have, is platinum pens. Nothing. They're from Minnesota, aren't they? Platinum pens.
I don't know.
No, I know they're
Maybe.
American. And Parker pens. No, I think they're English.
Parker.
I think they're English Parkers. But I know Platinum made left-handed fountain pens. I got one. I've got it somewhere. I haven't got it here. But yes, they made a left-handed fountain pen.
We have Parker Hannifin, which is a big company that makes, in my area, they make hydraulics for, say, like airplanes for the flaps and all that.
Oh, yeah. And
they also make it for like missiles and drones. They're into the dirty stuff too, so it's not all good.
Oh, crumbs. And so we have Martin Baker make ejector seats, and I think they make ejector seats for aircraft throughout the world, most of the world, in fact. And I think, I could be wrong, I think some of the American aircraft are fitted with Martin Baker ejector seats. And how they came about is that there was two really good friends that formed this firm, and one of the chaps, his mate, was a test pilot, and he got killed, and he's absolutely devastated. And that's where he decided to make and design an ejector seat so the pilot could eject safely. And that's where it came about, and that was Martin Baker. So,
amazing.
Yeah.
Do you have the company 3M? Do you know the?
Yes. Oh, yeah. 3M. Yeah.
Okay. So Pillsbury was the first governor. I think it was John Pillsbury, the second governor of Minnesota. He ended up becoming 50-50 partners with and created 3M.
Really?
So it's originally Pillsbury that created 3M.
So is it the 3M is the three?
Mining, milling, and manufacturing, I think is what it stands for.
Because
if I'm not mistaken.
They're pretty good firm. I think they're a pretty good firm, 3M.
Well, it's a conglomerate. It's huge. It's gone beyond,
really
what it originally was.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's still, I grew up going to 3M surplus auctions. They'd have machinery that were either obsolete or just kind of like white elephant type stuff that they no longer used, or just surplus in general because it had too many of them. They were redundant machines going to auctions every month down to St. Paul where they would have that kind of thing.
Really? And apparently Ambrose said that apparently Keir Starmer used his intelligence and invented an ejector seat for helicopters.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think you're having a joke there. But,
I get it. I get it.
Yeah. Got a bit cut up about it. But no, I think that it's quite a surprising amount of. Now, the Standard, was it Standard Tool Company? I think they were from your state, weren't they? Standard Tool Company?
Standard?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Because I got a spirit level that my granddad bought my father, granddad on my mother's side, because my granddad on my mother's side got on really well with his new son-in-law, my dad. And he bought him in 1945 a spirit level, which was a lot of money in those days. And it was American. And I still use it. And it's still as accurate as could be. It's fantastically well made. And it's made by the Standard Tool Company in America. So
I wonder if they're the same standard, like American standard. They make toilets and sinks and that kind of thing. They were big and radiators and whatnot. Could be. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. But,
you mentioned the ejection seats. That reminds me. I read. So there was an autobiography of Charles Lindbergh Jr.
Yeah.
Of his flight to Paris from New York, in the spirit of St. Louis. And in it, he talks about how after he did that, he started working for the U.S. Postal Service for developing airmail routes.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he was there when they started to introduce parachutes to escape the plane when something would go wrong. And he had to actually use a parachute at one point because his plane locked up in freezing weather and ended up hitting a barn after he bailed out on it. But he was there to test the routes for the government.
Whoa! What a brave man! But did you
when
know
they first started using those? Because those early airplane people didn't use parachutes. It was just like if you crashed, you're done for. There's no.
Well, that's right.
There's no idea of parachute until it came later.
Well, parachutes, they were invented in the airborne times before the First World War, and people used
but it wasn't common for pilots to carry them with them.
Well, it wasn't the RAF then; it was the Royal Flying Corps. Britain said it would not give the pilots backbone if they had a parachute. So they did, but they actually had them because because they used to put the balloons up, didn't they? Where observation balloons, they had parachutes. They could leg it out the balloon with a parachute. But the pilots of planes didn't because they believed it would, it create cowardice.
No, I didn't watch the Jimmy Stewart version of Lindbergh. Did they go into like his early time flying before he did his intercontinental flight? Because there was a period of time. You read his autobiography. It's called We, W-E, We. That's the name of his autobiography. He started out in the military flying these things called the Jenny, which were biplanes.
Yeah.
And then after he got out of he was still in the military, somewhat out, but they were going around the country, and he got caught up with wing walkers, the old wing walkers where you'd have a gymnast walking on wings from plane to plane and doing acrobatic stuff for people to watch from the ground. I just remember that. You got to have kind of iron nerves in order to do that kind of thing.
Great Waldo Pepper, I think it was, with Robert Redford. A lot of fiction in it, but the wing walker there, she fell off. They had lots of accidents, didn't they? Because they did barnstorming. My father, when he was a kid, they went to Wales on a day trip, and I don't know, they had I think it was a Gypsy Moth plane, which was a twin seat. Might not be, but he said it's a Gypsy Moth, and he said you could go up for a flight, and you sat at the front where the pilot was sitting, the pilot sit behind you, and he said that he did it for devilment. The pilot, he put the plane into a dive, and when he looked round, the pilot's going, with a sort of shocked look on his face, just to frighten people. But it costs very little. But I think
$5. I remember him
Yeah.
writing about that. And at that
$5.
time, that was the going rate.
Wow.
And the pilots that were charging to ride in the airplane less than $5, he said you didn't want to go anywhere near the cut rate.
Oh well, I think so. I mean,
They were
let's face
doing
it.
things like to patch a radiator, throwing barley into it.
Yeah.
It's just weird stuff. Some of
crumbs.
these people.
The other one is putting egg in.
Patch.
They'll patch it in. But no, I think that I kind of like that sort of attitude, that spirit, though. And they're in Papua New Guinea is a bit like that, because if you look on YouTube, you see Papua New Guinea Airlines, and the pilot has to be a mechanic as well, because when they're in these remote areas and the plane breaks down, can't take off, they've got to repair it themselves. That's it. There's no mechanic there. You're left until they can fly some spare parts in. But
Interesting.
Yeah.
My grandfather told me of an incident because his family moved out to Montana, where his uncles were starting a abattoir out near Great Falls, Montana, and they had a large fair, like a state fair for Montana, and they had acrobatic airplane show in the middle of it, and one airplane caught the other airplane from the back, and they both crashed into the crowd in the stadium where this all took place. And my grandpa said he witnessed it take place.
oof, not a nice
Just
sight.
nuts. When he was a child, it would have been in like the 30s.
Yeah. Crumbs. That must have been a pretty awful sight. Well, it's a bit like in the film The Great Waldo Pepper, when the bloke crashes and some fella comes along with a cigarette. Just, don't. And boom, the whole thing goes up.
Well, Montana also, the Lend-Lease that we had during World War II, a lot of the planes ended up being manufactured in Montana and then flown over the Bering Strait into Russia and places.
Really? That's interesting.
And to this day, like Boeing is in Washington State, just north or south of British Columbia in Canada, on the West Coast.
It's funny you mentioned Pillsbury Dough, because it's a mystery. In the First World War, when the Americans joined, and my granddad had this saying as well, they called them the Doughboys. And I don't quite know where that came from. And my dad, and the saying was, well, it meant in this country a slang for giving someone a punch. They gave him a right doughboy, which meant, it's like the American
Punch in the gut.
Punch in the gut. Yeah, as a doughboy. But then that saying was lost. And in the Second World War, it was a GI. There were GIs, general issue. But there are certain sayings, like, for example, pistos are new, that didn't exist before World War II. And what it was, there was a saying apparently with the American Air Force that someone was drunk or pissed as an Inuit, which was an American tribe. But of course, the Norfolk people misheard that and thought it was Newt. And since then, it's stuck as pissed as a Newt, not an Inuit. And that's how that came.
Oh,
Yeah, so I think he says pissed as a Newt, which was really pissed as an Inuit. And there's lots of sayings like that came over from America that's been sort of corrupted. But yeah, that's interesting. Now, when Charles Lindbergh, when he made that famous flight, apparently he'd had a bad night's sleep the night before, which is not a particularly good idea, because he had to go a long time without sleep, didn't he?
20 hours.
Wow.
20. I think it was 20 or 22-hour flight.
And if he would have dropped into the ocean, that's it. There's no rescue. Was there any rescue plans at all? I mean, that would have been.
I don't think so.
Because
they had ships, unless they had ships lined up ready to do it.
I don't think he had a dinghy or anything on any rescue stuff.
Well,
because he had to be lightweight.
That broadcast that I heard the other night with Tim Kelly and James Perloff was talking about how when he came to Paris, they gave him a prize with prize money, like millions of francs.
Yeah.
And he refused it. And instead, he told them to give it to the families of the men who died trying to cross on an airplane.
God. Oh, that's kind. That's brilliant.
Because there were people that did attempt it before him that died in that way.
Oh yes, yes. And was that one? Was it 1901, 2, 3? That bloke that thought he could fly, and he made this bird outfit. Went to the top. It was a very early film. Went to the top of the Eiffel Tower, jumped off, and of course the next thing, splat straight into the ground. Kaplonk. Yeah. Poor sod. But it seems the Lindberghs seemed very fair people. I mean, were they Republican, Democrat? What was?
Okay,
Charles
so
Lindbergh
yes,
Sr.?
Republican.
Mhm.
Now, there were factions at that time, and there was a faction called the insurgent faction, which is kind of what do they call it? A slight against them, created by their enemies. Their enemies called them the insurgents because,
Infiltrators.
like infiltrators of
Yeah.
the Republicans. Like they didn't belong, but they were there.
Bit like the Labour
because
Party.
They provided votes.
Communists infiltrated the Labour Party.
Well, the Republicans started out as communists.
That was
From
interesting.
Abraham Lincoln had correspondence with Karl Marx, and he was a Republican. The
Wow.
Republicans started here in Wisconsin, in Ripon, Wisconsin. And they started out as a socialist utopian commune called a phalanx. They had one in Ripon, Wisconsin, and it was essentially communist, like communal property, communal house, communal meals, communal wives,
Wow.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they were radical socialists, and they followed the example of Charles Fourier, who was a Frenchman who had developed the idea in France and never carried it out in France, but they brought it here in America, and there were a number of these communities. One was in Ripon, Wisconsin. That was the most successful. There are a few other ones. Brook Farm, which is where like Longfellow and Nathaniel Hawthorne and these people all kind of congregated.
It's communist. And it became right wing, sort of.
Well, that's what I mean. Okay, so it's the right wing and the left wing of the communist movement. And for instance, another one was in Texas.
Mhm.
And at the time, like for instance, in Wisconsin, in 1848, this is pre-Civil War, that's when Wisconsin became a state. And they had what was called the Dred Scott decision, which was an escaped slave came to Wisconsin where slavery was abolished. And the Supreme Court said, nope, he has to go back to his slave owner. And so they ended up capturing him and bringing him back, and it led up to what became the Civil War. And there was so the Fourierite community the commune was started in around that time, 1840s. And it was a lot of exiles from Europe, like, from the Marxist revolution in 1848, which is, I think, 1848 is also when Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto, if I'm not mistaken.
Das Kapital. And
Or
the thing
Das
is,
Kapital, one of the two.
yeah, and he's buried in Highgate in London.
In London, yeah. Because he spent time in London. I think he might have even been to New York for a little bit and then back. But Germany, like Bonn, Germany, Cologne, I think is where he was originally home-based. But they had a failed revolution in 1848, and they were all shipped out. The exiles from that revolution, that failed revolution, ended up coming to places like Wisconsin, to like Milwaukee and Chicago, and then places like Texas, like Houston and San Antonio and all these places in Texas that you wouldn't think where all of these German expats, Swiss, French, and they had communes in Texas. They had communes in different places, but the most successful one is in Wisconsin. And from there, they developed our public school system, government school system, where they take children out of the homes and communally educate them with teachers. Whereas before that, it was mostly either like religious schooling, orphanages, or homeschooling. If you got an education, quote unquote education.
Well, we don't really get an education nowadays. But,
Well, it's brainwashing.
Well, it is, but you call it public school.
Well,
over
government
here,
public school.
Yeah, government school. Over here, public school is a posh school that you go to, that people pay to send their children, strangely enough.
Sure, we
But
call it private school.
private school, yeah. But the fact of the matter is that it's not education, it's brainwashing. Now, I think it always has been in many ways, but it's surprising. I really didn't know that about the Republican Party. It's really shook me rigid. It really has, that they were started off as commies.
Yeah, and it's funny because today we have Donald Trump, and he's calling these people, like we had an election where a Muslim in Michigan got elected, which is a large Muslim population there.
Yeah.
Henry Ford brought them in to replace the drunken Irishmen because they didn't get drunk, cheap labor,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So there's a big Muslim area near Detroit in these areas. And so this guy got elected even though his people, which is the AIPAC, they call it, American Israeli groups, donated like $30 million to his opponent, and they lost. So now he has nothing better to do but to demonize the guy that won, the Muslim, by calling him a communist. And it's just so ironic because Trump's a Republican, and the history of republicanism is communist in its origin.
Yeah.
But most people don't know it because it's been, politics are manipulated by whoever's in power at the time to best convenience them.
Well, it's run by the usury scam, isn't it, really? Because
Exactly.
the idea of democracy is a usury scam idea to give people the fake
it's
impression
communism.
that they're choosing a leader. They're not choosing a leader at all. And as I've often...
It's this idea of radical equality, like we're all equal, and to an extent we are equal, but they take it to a radical notion of equality that just doesn't exist in nature.
Well, we're all different. There's those differences that we sort of, for example, go around the world and you see how people have adapted to their environments. And if I was dropped in the middle of, say, if I was dropped in Africa and say in the Kalahari Desert, I'd want to meet Kalahari Bushmen because I know I'd be safe because they'd know how to survive.
Yeah, by birth. By birth, they're
it's natural that they are brilliant. And I would survive. I'd probably eat very well with them. They would look on me as right bloody, I don't know, bit wet, because I wouldn't be able to keep up with them.
Well, one thing about Charles Lindbergh Sr. in this biography, he was big into, at the time that he was in Congress, the turn of the century, there's still a big thing about Darwinism being like, there's a battle between the church and the Darwinists, materialists that believe that we're just, material and evolving and there's no soul or anything. We're just mechanical materialism versus the spiritual and the historical church and all that. So he was big into researching that. And I think one of the big people that he looked into was Huxley, the bulldog of Darwin. I forget the guy's name. It's the father of Adolphus. Is it Adolphus Huxley?
I don't know.
And then his brother Julian Huxley.
Oh, Julian Huxley,
who was the historian of the United Nations and these big international cabal type organizations.
But as Paul says, do you need a united nations? Why do you want to unite the nations?
No,
Surely,
but you need law. And that's the big thing. If you don't have law between nations and it's just lawless warfare, what do you got? So you do need some sort of a common language and understanding between nations. Otherwise, there's battles that occur, and that's why we're in the current mess that we're in. And that's what Charles Lindbergh Sr. stood up against with the First World War coming while he was in Congress. And he saw that the war was coming. We weren't entered into the war until either late 1917 or early 1918. I think 1918 is when we actually got in.
I think it's late
right at the end.
1917. That's right at the end. But the thing is that why Britain entered into the First World War, which completely destroyed everything. It bankrupted this country at a war that was nothing to do with us. It's absolutely bonkers. And it was the bankers' war. That's really what it was
The
about.
usual suspects, the same people that are running things now. Because they're
unmentionables.
benefit.
And I think they keep it on about Russia, Putin this and Putin that.
The same people that they're booted out of Russia. have this atavistic, which means like ancestral hatred of Russians for some reason. And the reason is the atavistic hatred of what happened to their great grandfathers and their grandfathers.
Yeah. Well, I think quite honestly, when you look at First World War, again, we were told we haven't been told the truth, because the real fact of the matter, the First World War was to stop Germany getting a major industry that would outproduce this country. And the way oil was desperately needed, because we went from coal to oil, and they were building a railway from the Middle East to Germany, because Germany knew that Britain ruled the waves basically at that time, with a massive navy. So if they could bring the oil across land, they wouldn't have many problems from Britain.
Was
So
that the Orient Express in Turkey?
No.
Because it would go to Turkey, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it
there
went.
was
I
a
think it
plan
went through
from
Turkey.
Babylon.
Yes.
Well, through Iraq, and into Turkey, and then up through Turkey into Europe.
I think it was about that, but we wanted to destroy that railway to stop Germany getting that oil and pushing ahead with their industry. That's basically the reason we.
Yeah, same story, same old story of what's going on now with the pipeline.
Oh yes, that's right. Now, Pink Planet's got a question for you. So put your seatbelt on. Here it comes.
Hit me with it.
Hit you with your rhythm stick, Patrick. If you could go back in time, when would you like to go back to?
Time of Jesus. That'd be the most interesting.
Yes.
Recent history, I don't know, maybe to that time.
It would be interesting because he would probably turn out completely different to the way we think he looks.
Well, I think that I think we're put in our own time for a reason. So I'm just happy that we have the chance that we do today.
Well, I wouldn't want to stay there though, just to visit, because
time travel. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you I don't think you'd really. I don't think we'd survive very long if we did. Quite honestly, it was so tough in those days. We went back in time and.
I like the idea of movies and stuff. Fantasy of time. The time pieces, time period films, and that. I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
More than the action films and all this garbage that Hollywood puts out these days.
Like the Time Machine. That one's 1960. You'd have seen the Time Machine, based on H.G. Wells' book, The Time Machine.
Yeah, he's something else, isn't he?
Yeah, it's quite a film.
He did one called The Open Conspiracy. I want to look into that. It was a book he wrote. The Open Conspiracy.
Well, H.G. Wells, though, he was a Fabian.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Fabian. He was all into eugenics and creating wars. And
that's right. I'm trying to find out. Now, I don't know, but I'm trying to find out whether the bloke who designed the NHS, his name I can never bloody well remember, who was a eugenicist, whether he was a Fabian. He was a liberal, part of the Liberal Party, but I wonder. But it doesn't matter. You can be he could be a closet Fabian.
George Bernard Shaw. He was another guy around the time of what's his face.
No, that's right. Nasty piece of work. Because George Bernard Shaw believed that everybody, every 5 years, should go to a tribunal to actually convince them that they should live.
And then he was friends with G.K. Chesterton. They'd have debates because Chesterton, he didn't start off as a Catholic. I think he was High Church Anglican at one point. And he was into seances and all that. The what do you call it? Spiritualism.
Yeah.
He came from that with his family, and then later in life converted to Catholicism. But he vehemently opposed Bernard Shaw, even though they were friends. They would get into open debates.
Well, it's nice when friends can debate and still remain friends. Now, this is an interesting one. Oh dear. Shall we light the fuse, Patrick? Pink Planet said, who invented money? Depends on what era you're talking about, really. Because you can go back to the Babylonians and things like that. The money.
Yeah, that's a good question. When was money first discussed?
Yeah.
And they had gold and all these. I guess it depends what you mean by money.
Well, in the Pacific Islands, they used to barter with very rare stones. And
Yeah, I remember doing a photography project here near Lake Minnetonka, which is where all the ritzy people have their mansions. And I remember going to this house that was designed by Philip Johnson. You're into architecture, so you might know who Philip Johnson was.
I've heard of him.
He was a modernist, did skyscrapers and that kind
Oh.
of thing.
A crap, then, in other words.
Yeah, like just when things started to become crap, like the 40s skyscrapers.
Yeah.
And this house had this big millstone in it as an art piece. And I was told, I went to a couple houses that had millstones in it. And the story goes that they used them as currency, like these tribes in the South Pacific or in the Pacific used to trade them between tribes because it was a form of currency. A millstone you can grind things with. You know, it's a useful tool.
Yeah. Well, it used to be barter as well. There was bartering that went on. But I think they used beads years ago. Cavemen used beads to...
Oh, they used to have shells. What do they call that? The Native Americans in this country, when the French and the English explorers came. Wampum, they called it. Wampum.
Wampum.
Yeah, it was a bead, shells they'd find on the beach, and then they'd make it into jewelry and into clothing. And then, like, the Indians would wear it during their rituals and powwows and display themselves, and they do their like our government actually is based on a lot of the Native American chiefs getting together to have a council.
Well, Thanksgiving. That is something we don't have over here.
The Puritans coming over in the Mayflower. That
Yeah.
was a type of a thing where they would trade goods in order for either for protection or for food or supplies, whatever it might be. It's just a barter thing.
Well-
Or beads. That was another big thing. Beads, glass beads they'd bring from Europe and trade for goods.
Oh,
and
nails.
Service
Ship's nails. I know that
Yeah.
in Fiji,
to build a ship.
that was a currency for the young ladies, you see. They rather like ship's nails, and the HMS Bounty almost felt a bit because the sailors were exchanging nails for, shall we say, naughty things. Favours, yes. I think that's a polite way of putting it, yes. There are children listening, so there we go. But who invented money? I think we can move that question on to who worked out how to get lots of money without working for it.
That's called usury.
Usury.
Usury, and that goes back to ancient times.
A group of people that are now use it to their best. I've got a little.
They use the Bible. They use Scripture to justify it.
Yes.
Particularly the Old Testament, where there's a passage, I believe, in Deuteronomy that talks about you can't have usury amongst your kin, but if an alien comes, you can charge them usury. But really, if you analyze that scripture passage, it's almost like saying people who pay their taxes get services, and if you get some alien coming in and hasn't paid taxes that doesn't deserve the services that come from paying taxes, that you charge them a little extra because they haven't paid for it. But they use it to mean that anybody who's not one of their tribe, they can rape with high usury interest rates.
That's it. And this is why we've got inflation, and this is why we pay tax, because they're paying off a loan that doesn't exist. And that's the most, that is one of the most
slavery
amazing thing they've got away with, because I think Einstein said it's the eighth wonder of the world. It's a wonder that can get away with it. And what it is, you get a loan. People, so you go up to anybody and they say, what's a usury? Anybody in the street, they go, well, yeah, it's only washing powder. What is it? And most people don't know what usury is, but that's the reason we pay tax. And that's the reason we've got government.
Most people who think of slavery, it basically is that definition that they're thinking of. It's forced labor without compensation.
Yes.
Because you're basically working for somebody else at your own expense and for nothing in return. No risk, no nothing.
That's it. You just sit and watch the money accumulate, and it's got to the point.
Only because you have an excess wealth that you're able to freely lend out like that. And then you demand extra tribute from that person. you made them your slave.
Yeah, that's it. And a gentleman with a moustache in 1933, he outlawed usury in a certain country called G, it's bound with G, Germany. And that is what I believe
Actually, it
World
was
War II is
D.
about. Oh,
In
D,
that country, it was D.
Deutschland.
Yes.
Yes, you're right. It's Deutschland. Yes, you're quite right there. But in England, it's
In England,
G.
yes.
Yes, I think
English speaking.
do you in America call it Deutschland or Germany?
Germany.
Yeah, same here. But the thing is that that I believe is what World War II is really about. To show the world that if anybody else has got funny ideas about doing away with usury, this is what's going to happen to them. That's basically it. So
Right. It was the government taking over control of the currency instead of private manipulators that come in and can counterfeit money at their will.
Well, that's right. And I think that overnight, a country that was poverty-stricken, bankrupt, had people sleeping in the streets, it became an industrial powerhouse. Why? Because they didn't have to pay off the usury loans. And when they went into Austria, Germany, or Deutschland, they imprisoned one of the Rothschilds. And the American Rothschild paid one of the biggest ransoms I think has ever been paid. I don't know the exact figure. Do you know about that one, Patrick?
Vaguely.
Yeah.
I know there's this story
millions.
that, you're talking about the Austrian branch of the Rothschilds?
That's right, yeah, because American Rothschild actually paid to have his relative released and brought to America.
It's very interesting that an Austrian branch of Rothschild, because they had ties into bank loans to all sorts of different governments, and even prior to World War II, it was also World War I. That was a consequence of those bank loans that were privately given to governments. And one big one, it was in the middle of the 1800s, was to the Vatican for protection, because France was coming in with their troops and wanting to take over the papal states of the Italian peninsula. And the Austrian government, through the Rothschilds, offered money to the papal states, which ended up putting them under the control of the Rothschilds.
Yep.
The Italian peninsula, which forced the Pope into the Vatican City state where he currently resides, and all the lands were taken away by defaulting on the loan. And
that's interesting.
Part of the reason we have the Italian Republic at the moment. And that's a fascinating one, because it involved the Freemasons coming in.
Wow.
And infiltrating the Italians on the Italian peninsula, and forcing the hand of the Pope to even write encyclicals against the Freemasons. And I've been reading a lot of those encyclicals from that time period, because it's there's a lot going on. Like Garibaldi was in contact with Albert Pike in America, Civil War general, Union general under Abraham Lincoln.
Was it Three World Wars, man, that wrote that?
3 World Wars. The Mazzini was the guy in the Carbonari, which is the Freemasons in Italy. And who was it? There's Helena Blavatsky. You've heard of Helena Blavatsky?
Yes.
She was one of Garibaldi's lovers, I think. She was involved with the military occupation. She was originally from Ukraine, modern day Ukraine.
They named a biscuit after him, didn't they? The Garibaldi biscuit.
Garibaldi biscuits.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Now, Pink Planet. Now, Pink Planet has said, now, I live just around the corner of Pink Planet. In fact, if I stood on my roof, I could probably shout, and go, "Ah!" and she'd probably hear me. Near us, there are 2 coal and tax wine posts. Eh? Who invented them? Near us, there are 2 coal. What? I don't know. I've got the fuckiest idea what they are. Near us are. Anybody else know what they are? Pink Plate, can you explain a bit more? Near us, there are coal and tax wine posts. Who invented them?
Yeah, clarify that.
Yeah, I think you need clarifying there. as I say, I only live around the corner of Pink Planet. I don't quite know. And she's saying she has a Swiss Army knife. Yes, I got a Swiss Army knife. And did you know that they're not that during manufacture, human hands, they're untouched by human hands. It goes straight the way through the machine, and people don't touch them. And they're even boxed by robots. That's how they got the price down. Very clever.
For what again? Sorry, I was
Swiss Art. You know the Victorinox Swiss Army.
Oh, they don't even make them by hand. They're not handicraft.
No, not at all. It's all machined.
Automated.
And also, if you've got a Seiko watch, this is a Loros actually, which is made by Seiko. Seiko 5 was one of the first watches to be made without human hands touching it. It's all, and that was in 1965. It was the first computerized made watch in the world, and that is by Seiko. But no, Victorinox Swiss Army knives are fantastic. They are the best, and they almost went bankrupt after they had after 9/11 because they stopped selling Swiss Army knives in airports. That's where you used to buy them in the duty free. And when I was a kid, it was the same with you. You had a pen knife for when you went to school. All the kids had pen knives. Nobody batted an eyelid. Did you have a pen knife? You know, you're whittling wood and things like that.
Yeah, I don't remember bringing it to school, but I didn't, I wasn't. I had knives and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, we used to all have them at school. You know, it's just a standard thing.
People used to bring guns to show and tell.
Really? I don't think I do that in this country. Pink Planet says coal and tax wine posts used to tax horse and cart. Where are they?
Well, you hitch them to it, and then the
I don't know.
auditor comes and tells you how much tax you have to pay.
Well, I know horse and cart is Cockney rhyming slang for a flatulence. I've just heard horse and cart. So there we go. Now, it was tax on man going through with coal and wine with horses and cart. Is it along the canal, Pink Planet? I don't know of this. I've lived here for quite a long time. You know more than I do. I don't know. Where is one? Can you sort of tell me where it is? I'll go on my bike and look at it. And DJ B2 says, I have a couple of Seiko watches. They're bloody brilliant. They both self-wind 3 mil movement. That's right. Seiko 5 does. I say, if you've got a Loros is a Seiko. And that's the second name for...
You know what else is handy? Yeah. I have a wrist flashlight with a high-intensity LED.
Really?
Those come in handy for like at night, just for seeing things. You just strap it on like a watch. And then the one that I've got is made by it's called Surefire. That's the name of the company. They make weapon lights and whatnot for police and military and civilian. But
wow.
You'd use it at night, for a weapon. And that's kind of the idea is, and then wherever you're shining with your wrist, you can see where you're aiming in the dark.
That's up.
But it's I don't use it for that, obviously, but it's very handy for when you need a flashlight and you don't need you need both of your hands to move, like for like plumbing and all that kind of thing.
Really? Well, I got one of these little headlights that you put on your head.
Headlights are nice,
which I got from well, you'd have it from Dollar Tree, but ours is Poundland. But by the way, Poundland, yeah. So or what was it? It's another one. One Beyond is another one we have. One Beyond. You know that one?
Yeah, we have Family Dollar, Dollar General, Dollar Tree.
We did have a 99p shop, but they kept having to give penny changes all the time. So you give £1 over. But
apparently they don't stamp pennies anymore here.
Don't they?
That was the first form of currency we ever had was pennies. I think it was Ben Franklin came up with penny.
But I've got my weapon here, of course, which is Survival Steve told me, because we're not allowed to be armed in this country. And in Scotland, you've got to have a license to have an air gun. Don't have to in England. And there is my weapon. All the way from America, it is the Sharpie. You carry that in your top pocket, and if someone goes to hit you, you put that in your fist and go.
I saw a short video. Someone on Joe Rogan was talking about that.
Yeah,
They make
Sharpie
a
pens.
particular type of. There's a particular type of
Yeah.
Sharpie that has a very
Yes.
hard point on it.
Yes.
That is recommended. I forget what it was.
Yeah. And the
You can look it up.
someone who's attacking you gets a beauty spot at the same time.
Yeah, that's who it's that guy. Go get
Yeah,
that guy.
that's it.
Yeah, it's a way to
Yeah.
market.
But it's quite. We're not allowed to. This country is unbelievable. But the English Constitution. I'm not talking about the British one. The English Constitution says that you have the right to bear arms.
Well, you can have bare arms as long as you don't have sleeves.
That's right. Here we go. I can bear my arms. That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, about Pink Planet says it's at Holy Cross Hill, also Bencroft Wood. Well, I've learned something there, Pink Planet. I really didn't know about that. I'll have to check them out. Now, hang on. Is it? I go into Pound Shop and ask staff the price of items. Endless fun. Well, they're no longer £1 because they've gone up now. You get stuff up to
Inflation.
you get £5, but it's actually you can get some good quality there, but most of the time it's now hang on. Pink Planets looked it up. Here it comes. Looked it up. They were boundary markers for coal coming into London. 19th century. 200 still exist. I googled it. Well, I bloody well learnt something there. I didn't know that. See, not many people know that. Now you could use the Sharpie. This is Embryo says you could use the Sharpie just to write on their face because it won't come off. You're right.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. And the
Yes.
officer, it was that guy. He's the one with the
Yeah.
marker. Yeah.
But the other one that Survivor Steve says is a toothbrush, but one with a bamboo handle because they're more solid. Wallop, and apparently that does more damage than Sharpie. And clean your teeth with it afterwards, So there we go. But what would you do? What would you be doing walking around with a toothbrush in your top pocket? I don't generally.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Looking for a sink.
Yeah. But back to Charles Lindbergh. He died, was it 1974?
The junior did, yeah.
Junior did. What about senior? I think he died around the time.
He died before World War II. He was in the middle of running for governor and died. He had an illness and then died.
That's a shame. Now, the quick question is, where is Donald tonight? He must have been a big
good
meal.
question.
He's
Where
gone
did
up to sleep. Cooey! Do you reckon we could tempt him on with a corned beef sandwich? Or do you reckon we ought to up the stakes a bit to a cucumber sandwich?
I sent him a message. I asked him if he's still busy.
Yeah.
We'll see.
He's probably having a scoff. Thanks, mate. That's much appreciated. But no, he should be on tonight because it's the fear business. Ooh. Now, the other thing I was going to ask, Patrick, do you think there is a hidden hand which is behind all these wars? The death jab, and everything. Because I was listening to Max Egan or whichever way you want to call
Egan,
it.
yeah.
Egan.
I've always heard Egan. So that's
Egan,
what I'll go with.
yeah, I think that's it. Egan. Same here. And he didn't say this on Paul's show last Thursday, but I saw him on another show where he was talking about the Middle East. Now they're saying that there's rockets raining down on Israel. There's rockets raining down on Iran. Well, if that was the case, the Israeli Air Force would be out of action. They wouldn't be able to invade other countries. The whole Israeli Air Forces would be kaput, but they're not. And then you'd look at the capital of Iran, and there was a chap there broadcasting from there. Everything looks fine. Do you reckon someone somewhere's telling us a few porkies?
I don't know. I think that there have been missile barrages, but not recently, because they've run out of weapons. As far as I listen to all of these alternative podcasts. Like I listen to Alexander Mercous and Alexander, I forget the other guy's name. He's got a Greek name. They do this podcast called The Durand, and then Another one, Nima.
Patrick
forget his last
Lancaster.
name.
You got Patrick
Yeah,
Lancaster.
yeah. They have people. They have Patrick Lancaster. All of this stuff is so inbred. These alternative podcasts that they're all doing their own shows. Like Professor Morandi is another one from Iran.
Oh, I've seen him. Yes.
Where they talk about the same things. Larry Johnson and all other people, Pepe Escobar, and they're all saying the same things. But basically, America's run out of like missiles that can actually do any sort of damage in Iran. The Israelis have run out of weapons, and it's just been a stalemate as far as that's concerned. But the big thing is the Strait of Hormuz, where they don't need airplanes. They don't need that kind of thing because it's from the shoreline. They can do damage to the ships, and they have drones. It's just a different type of warfare now, where everything's drone operated. The killer drones,
They're
and they
frightening.
make them cheap.
Yeah, they're really quite frightening, these drones. But so it's a bit, as I say, a stalemate situation. But apparently, Britain, France, and Germany are supplying Ukraine with drones that are going deep into Russian territory, and I think they've actually gone into Moscow and hit places in Moscow. So there we go.
Yeah, they have. I heard that they've been bombing like their equivalent of Amazon, which is called wild berries.
Well, they're going up to the
Translated.
bear and kicking it up the backside, basically. So what's it going to do? It's not going to sit there and not bite, isn't it? So,
Yeah, exactly. Well,
provoking.
I've heard that they're taking over Odessa, which is the main port for Ukraine in the Black Sea.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, Turkey has shut off the Dardanelles to Russian traffic going in and out of the Black Sea.
Really? Wow. Now,
Yeah.
that's interesting. That's very interesting because there was a South African bloke who was on, what was it now? He was on a show once and he was talking about a prophet, someone who could see the future.
In South Africa.
In South Africa. He speaks
I
like
forget his name.
He's a bit flat. I can't remember his name. Sorry, it's a bit sort of South African, I hope. And he said that World War III will start with Russia invading Turkey. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that?
Yeah.
And
Could be.
And that was in the 1920s, this fella predicted it. And he said there'd be a time when a president will be in power with a quiff. And he's got a quiff, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, well, wig, I think, but still, that's another question. I mean, do you think it's a wig? I don't know. It seems to have a mind of its own, doesn't it? Donald Trump's hairline. Just turns his head, the wig stays where it is. Now, Pink Planet's got a question for you. So far, and by the way, thanks, Pete and Pink Planet. You've widened my knowledge area of these posts. So yours truly. So if you see someone on his bike and you know that, well, not quite like that, you'll see that I'll be looking for the posts. Patrick, how many times have you been to the Holy Land?
Never.
Same here. Been near.
I don't know if I'd want to go. I mean, I might if if things turn around and
well, if it
the
becomes
good people get in.
that's
get
right.
Back in.
If it becomes Palestine, we'll probably go.
Right.
With it. But as it's not Palestine, but yes, I think it's very far from the Holy Land at the moment, isn't it? Really.
I give money to the Patriarch of Jerusalem, who's a Catholic cardinal, Pier Battista Pizzaballa, and he's doing good work helping orphans and widows and families in need.
Really, that's what I call a bloody good bloke. Now, Exo says Putin is due to expand into Europe soon.
Could be.
That's it.
I don't know. I don't think he really wants to. I mean, why?
No.
He just wants NATO to get out of there, get out of the border with Russia.
But and DJB2 reckons that
Donald's going to be here soon.
well, Donald Trump's hair is probably shredded weak.
No, I mean Donald Jeffries just sent me a message.
Oh, Donald.
He's
Oh, that's
leaving
great.
Soon.
That's brilliant. That is, and well, let's face it. What's stopping Russia? They got the technology to do it. for hitting our factories that are producing these drones, which they can do. These,
Well, not only that, was it Fairfield or whatever it's called in England? You have the B-2 bombers given a
That's right.
landing and refueling base there.
Yeah, yeah,
To go and blow up Iranians and Ukrainians.
yeah. And I think we got B-52s housed here.
Yeah, them too.
Yeah.
Bombers in general.
But wasn't Odessa part of Russia originally? Pink Planet asks. Yes, it was.
Kiev was the capital city of Russia.
Yes.
That's where Vladimir the Great converted to Christianity and formed his kingdom there.
Yes.
And then I think his son ended up in Veliki Novgorod, which is north of Moscow, and set up his princedom there, and that moved it further north and east, which led the way to Moscow being the capital.
Now, this is interesting. Aunt Sally said, hello, Aunt Sally. By the way, do you know that Miles is not hasn't got his pals this week?
Piles.
No, he's travelling around universities.
His hemorrhoids.
And his hemorrhoids. No, he's not. I don't think he has got hemorrhoids. I had
No,
a
I'm
friend
joking.
but did you know that horse chestnuts cure hemorrhoids?
I don't know.
No, you
Wouldn't
don't.
have known. In a million years, I wouldn't have known that.
You
one.
eat horse chestnuts. You don't.
Okay,
Insert them
good.
anywhere. But no, don't want too much information there. I had a friend who wanted to take me, expenses paid, with her to the Holy Land to get baptized. I declined. Yes. So that's interesting.
You can get baptized any old place,
Yes.
any old church.
And
zoo.
Pink Planet says it is beautiful. I went to Sea of Galilee and the Holy Land tour in 1998. 9/10 of world's beauty. 9/10 world. 1998. 9/10 of the world's beauty. Is it?
I don't doubt that it's not beautiful and a very interesting place.
Yes.
And maybe I would go. I'd like to go, but the way things are now, it's like I don't know if I'd want to.
And Jolly Man writes, and I agree with him, Rice Krispies and cornflakes cereals are loaded with synthetic vitamins, and I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot sterilised barge pole. So there we go. So,
I used to eat cereal all the time, and I
did.
quit that. No,
I did.
no
So I
thanks.
found out about it. It was Kellogg's. Apparently, this idea of 3 meals a day.
It's just sugar and starch.
Yeah.
And it's puffed up. It's like, what are you buying? By weight, it's not very much when you think of it.
And it's the idea we're meant to give our body a rest from eating. We're only meant to eat 1 meal a day. That's what I generally
Well,
eat, 1 meal a
and
snack.
if you want to be like my half brother Leo is a football star.
Yeah.
They eat red meat.
Yeah.
Just eat a bunch of red meat if you want to become buff and athletic and all that kind of stuff, like a football player, rugby player. Then just eat red meat.
That's it. Actually, red meat goes into protein as well. It's very good for your muscles.
Yeah.
And Pink Planet said, we had a Palestinian guide. So there we go. Yes, well, there are Palestinians there. And as I've said,
my grandma went there. I remember her telling me about it. It's it's beautiful, beautiful place.
oh, it's apparently so, yes.
It's in the wrong hands, but beautiful place.
I agree with you. I agree with you there. It is in
In
the wrong
certain
hands.
parts.
Well, I've probably said this before. You know that if it wasn't for Palestine, I probably wouldn't be here. So there we go.
Chocolate.
Yeah, the chocolate thing. Yeah. As I say, it was so. My dad was in the siege of Malta, and a ship during World War II managed to run the gauntlet, and it was loaded with Palestinian chocolate, which helped keep the chaps alive. So there
Well,
we go.
if you think about it, it is kind of the apex of civilization in that area, because to get from any of the continents, you have to go through that area. Africa to Europe, Europe to Asia,
Oh yeah.
or Europe to Africa, Asia to Africa.
And Pink Planet said the Palestinian guide, he was lovely. I'm sure he was. Yes. I worked with a Palestinian who his family, I think it was in 1948, the Israelis came to the door and at gunpoint ordered them out, and they were dumped on the street with just the clothes they stood up in. They were refugees. And somehow, by some miracle, they got to England and his mother got to America. But it was a miracle how they got here. And I worked with this chap, and it's quite a story he told me. And that was it. They was out on gunpoint. They took everything, absolutely everything. Now, Johnny Man said, I believe there was nutritional value in pot noodles. Nope. Said so on TV. The adverts used to claim it. Yeah, it's bullshit. And we've got a lot to, Kellogg's have got a lot to answer for. This, as I say, over 100 years ago, most people only ate one meal a day. They might eat two at a push, but any further than two, you'd be looked on as a gannet. And that's why people were slim. I mean, I only eat one meal a day. Today I had one meal and a snack. I had some cockles. So, as a snack.
Cockles.
Cockles, yeah, very nice.
What are
seafood. Oh, they're a seafood. They're crustacean.
Oh.
Sea. So cockles, mussels, alive.
Oh, cockle shells.
Cockle shells, yeah. Yeah, there's cockles, mussels,
Cockle shells
and
pretty
winkles.
all in a row.
Yeah. Do you get seafood sellers where you are selling cockles, mussels, and things like that? Or I suppose you don't. You're a bit sort of
We're landlubbers here.
landlubbers war. Oh, you bet you must be a bit with the ships going from seawater.
We do. We get shrimp and
Yeah.
snow crab and lobster, all that good stuff.
Yeah. But you don't get
Octopus, squid,
don't get cockles. There we go.
fish,
But
sushi.
I was just thinking the hulls of ships going from salt water to fresh water with the
Yeah.
lakes, then back to seawater. Must do something to the ships, I would have thought, with corrosion and rust and stuff.
I think it does. I don't know
Yeah.
how they do it. And it's only open certain parts of the year, most of the year, but then once November hits, it closes down
Really?
because it freezes up.
Yeah. That's interesting. Now, Embryo says, apparently pot noodle, or not poodle, got supplied with toenails. Oh, that's nice. Lovely and crunchy. Yeah. But, yeah, that's interesting. Was it the St. Lawrence River that gets frozen up, doesn't it?
St. Lawrence Strait, yep. It's from the Atlantic Ocean into the Great Lakes.
That's right.
And it goes through Montreal. Montreal is an island in the river there.
Really?
Montreal. It's
Montreal.
mountain. They call it Real Mountain. That's what it's a French word.
Yeah, but the
obviously.
scenery where you are is rather undulating. It looks a little bit like Devon or Cornwall in this country.
Hill country kind of.
Yeah, but a lot
Lots
of Wisconsin is flat.
lakes.
A lot of it's flat though. It's quite
Yeah, in the
interesting.
south. Where I'm
Yeah.
at, there are lots of lakes. And where I'm at actually is an ancient lake bed called Lake Grantsburg that used to go into Minnesota and here. And as the glaciers melted, it went away. But
Hmm.
we've got mineral deposits and such in this
Yeah.
area.
But I think that your state is very industrial. There's a lot of industrial
Yeah.
places there.
Yeah, and like we were
Milwaukee.
talking earlier about the Feuerite commune.
Yeah.
It was one of the more successful because you can grow things. There's minerals, mining, forestry, metallurgy, anything you can think of. The rivers, lakes, we can easily move. And the Mississippi River goes between Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois,
Really?
Mississippi, Louisiana, down to the Gulf of Mexico, and then you can go
Wow.
anywhere.
Now, Aunt Sally says cockles, mussels, winkles, and jellied eels. Yes, I don't like jellied eels very much, but I do like winkles, mussels, and cockles. And you can actually get you can get mussels and cockles in the bum store, as we call it, B&M stores. So there we go. That's where I buy them. See? It's not many
What
people
does
know
that stand for? B&N.
I don't know. But my nickname for it is Bum Store. But B&M, yes.
Excuse me.
Yes. It's one of these sort of, I don't know, a bit like, it's not
Posh?
as big as, no, a bit like Tesco's, I suppose.
Oh, okay.
A poor version of Tesco's. Or what would be equivalent where you are? Oh, crumbs. I'm just trying to think of your supermarkets. What's your major one there?
The big one that I like the best is Costco.
Costco. We got Costco over here.
Do you?
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
Costco. And do you have to pay to go in? I know some of them you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. It's a membership, but it's not like Walmart though.
Oh, Walmart. Yeah.
Like they didn't. I was reading about the history of it, listening about the history of Costco, where they didn't have usurious loans in creating Costco.
Really?
That it was, and that they pay their employees higher than average, and they retain their employees. Like 90% of employees are. It's a high rate of retaining employees, unlike Walmart or Sam's Club, which they don't allow unionization, and they pay them crap, and they're just like it's a revolving door of employees coming in and then getting booted out or quitting.
Really? Now that's interesting. Because I mean, Tesco go through staff like they're going out of fashion, but allegedly. Pink Planet says, Eric, do you like jelly deals? No, I don't. I think they're bloody horrible.
Jelly deals?
You just get a big bone and a bit of meat.
Is that the
stuck
name
round
of
the
it?
side.
Jelly deals?
Jellied eels. Yeah, jellied eels.
Jellied eels.
Yeah, and have you heard
That sounds like something I ate in China when I went there.
Oh,
jellied eels.
It probably is something you would have eaten in China because have you ever heard of pearly kings and pearly queens? Have you heard of them?
No.
Well, in London, they had this like royalty from Cockneys, and they had stitched pearls onto their clothing, and they were pearly. And there's only a few left now. There's not that many left, and they ate jelly deals. And I say I've had them. Don't like them. You're just paying for a bone. That's it. And Embryo says B&M stands for Billington and Mayman. So there we go.
Okay.
I didn't know that. See, I've learned a lot tonight. Yes, so that's it. But no, I and the other one is pie and mash. Pie and mash. So if you ever come to England, have pie and mash.
Is that mashed potatoes?
Yeah. Bloody
pie,
horrible.
like a meat pie?
They say it's the liquor that's supposed to be good. I couldn't
The
stand
liquor?
it. Yeah, there's like
do you
gravy with it. It's gravy.
Oh, gravy. Oh.
Yeah, they call it liquor. And Pink Planet said, my dad loved jelly deals. Yeah, my dad did as well. He liked jelly deals. But there are not so many nowadays because the Sargasso Sea, where they come from, not so many making the trip over where they mated in the River Thames and went back to the Sargasso Sea. That's where the eels were. They went halfway, they migrated. They don't know why. No, Sargasso is it's over
Portugal?
near Bermuda. It's right across
Where?
right across the Atlantic Ocean.
Huh.
It's a long way. Yeah.
Okay.
Just to end up on someone's plate. Seems rather pointless, doesn't it? Really? Do you have a good life? Well, I went over to England. Yes, to mate. Yes. Did you make? No, I ended up with someone's plate. But
Destiny.
yes. It's a bit like we have in a couple of weeks' time. We'll have the Canada geese flying in from.
Oh, you get them too. We get them.
Yeah, they fly in from the Arctic because it's warm here. It's warmer during their winters, and they go in a V. They fly in a V shape. Do you get that? Marvelous.
Yeah. No, what was it? Why when you see one of those V's flying, why are there more, or why is one side longer than the other?
I don't know.
It's just a stupid joke because there are more ducks on that side.
Oh dear. But I've seen them changing. So the leader changes over, and another bloke takes the lead. But for some unknown reason, those female. Well, there used to be so many of them, it almost blotted the sun out. It was like a cloud coming over. Now, you're lucky if you see one formation. I don't know what's happened. They just don't come over. I really don't know.
We get Canadian honkers in the fall coming down from Canada, going down south on their journey, and they're always making their noises in the morning.
That's right. Yeah. Go to Waltham Abbey, you still see quite a few Canada geese, but they stay here all year. Lazy bastards, they don't go back. Why should they? Get plenty of food. People feed them, so sod it. Why go back to the ice and cold of the Arctic when they can stay here? So they do. But we get a lot of seagulls here. Do you get? I suppose you don't. Do you get seagulls?
We do up in Duluth, Superior. on Lake Superior, which is the
Really?
biggest freshwater lake in the world. And seagulls. Yep.
Well, considering
Freshwater seagulls.
we're at 38 miles from the sea, 38, 40 miles, which if you're on Australian, that would be on the beach.
We're 100 miles from the south coast
Really?
of Lake Superior.
Wow.
So we don't get seagulls where we're at. Maybe once you start getting about 20 miles toward the shoreline, you'll see them.
Do you have to take iodine to stop getting goiters? Because if you're
What?
if you're a long way from the sea, you have to take. They found this out that you should really take iodine because the lack of seafood.
Maybe that's why they put it in salt.
Might be.
Iodinized salt is common here.
Yeah, that might be it. But no, you take iodine. It's it's very good for you. I take a drop each week or something like that. You only need a very small amount, but I eat plenty of seafood anyway.
It's in baked goods all over here. So yeah.
Yeah. But do you still you've got Wendy's still? Is it one of
Wendy's?
Wendy's
Fast
yeah,
food like McDonald's,
yeah.
Hardee's,
Yeah, they pulled out of Great Britain.
Burger King.
I don't know why. They just pulled out. They
Did
used
you
to be
have
the better
White
policy.
Castle?
No.
You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay, White Castle was like one of the original fast food places. And they make these little hamburgers that they put onions on in a bun. And they've got
Very nice.
5 holes in them. And they call them sliders. And the joke is they slide in the same way they slide out.
We had Wendy's, which they boiled the hamburgers, I think. They weren't fried. They're boiled. And they were quite nutritious, but they pulled out of this country about 20 odd years ago. Don't know why. Just went. So you don't
Probably
get
not
Wendy's
making the
anymore.
money they wanted
They
to.
probably didn't. The one
When I
we
went
got over here is Wimpy. And they're an
Wimpy's?
English one. Yeah, they're English.
I've never heard of. I mean, I think I've heard of them, but I've never been to one. I've never seen one here.
They were before McDonald's in this country, and they were English.
When I went to Russia, they had McDonald's and Burger King. Those were the 2 biggest ones, and then Kentucky Fried Chicken, which is
Really?
just bizarre.
I did
to see that.
Really, I did hear that they've changed the name to KFC. I don't know how true it is because it's not actually.
Yeah, it's KFC. They've abbreviated
Yeah.
the thing, so it's like CIA.
Yeah.
KFC.
KFC.
Silly.
And Embryo says we used to have Wimpys, which were really expensive. Yes, they were, but they're very good. Used to be. But does anyone remember the Golden Egg? There's a chain of restaurants called the Golden Egg, and you went in there and they did most things with eggs. So you'd have, I don't know, fried eggs, scrambled eggs, and Christ knows what else eggs. And the other one was Spud You Like. They both went. They no more. And Spud You Like was good.
Spud you like? What are they? Chips?
No,
shop?
they were jacket potatoes
They're potatoes though.
with
Spud.
you'd have sort of fillings in, and I thought it was a good idea, but they died of death. And now, Mark Ansley, thanks, mate. I always have. What's the matter with this? It's not coming on the screen. Come on, there it is. That's it. I always have a bottle of Lugal's iodine in the cupboard. Correct. It's Lugal's iodine, and the best place to get that from is Dr. Myhill. Hers is the cheapest, and it's a high strength. I bought a couple of bottles. So Lugal's iodine. That's it. Now, Pink Planet says, we have a new store manager at supermarket where I work. She's like a head teacher off Matilda film. She is a battle axe. Oh, how nice. What a charming lady. I bet you're having a whale of a time there. Yes. Now, it says, iodine is very effective at healing wounds, also very cheap and natural. Can't have that. It must be banned. And I think you put it on warts as well. It cures warts. So that's another thing it's used for.
Hydrogen peroxide, like food grade hydrogen peroxide, works for warts too.
Does it? Ah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. And
Another
apparently,
thing.
someone said if you wash your mouth out with very low, I think it's 4% or 3% hydrogen
Yeah.
peroxide, that's supposed to kill all the germs in your mouth.
It'll also, if you swallow it, kill all the good bacteria in your gut. So you gotta be careful.
Yeah, that's the trouble. Same with castor oil. You can use it to do oil pulling, but you mustn't swallow it. But they say it's carcinogenic. But I use castor oil on my finger because I've got this funny finger. This is why I've got this brace thing on to keep it straight. It's a Viking finger. It's sort of curling up. There's a name for it. I can't think what it is. And I'm putting castor oil on that, and it seems to be improving it. So it seems to be doing the job.
Is that a regular thing, chronic problem?
Well, it's
just recently?
It's gone for a couple of years. I'll show you. It's not nothing gory about. There's a name of a person's. Here is the finger just sits up like that, and it shows that you've got Viking heritage. It's Viking DNA. Yeah, the Vikings had this, and but it's gone down.
They don't tell you that just to make you feel good.
No,
nope. You're a Viking, Eric.
You're a Viking.
Yeah.
Eric the Viking.
Yeah,
so there we go. Yeah, but no. And did you know? Not many people know this, that the Vikings spoke with a Brooklyn accent.
No.
Yeah, I saw the film, and they had fantastic hairdressers. The Vikings were known for their hairdressing. I mean, when you see Tony Curtis, I mean,
their braids.
Yeah, very
known
very
for their braid.
Oh yes, very
pleating.
good. But you see, not many people realised they spoke English with a Brooklyn accent. So that's it. So there we go.
It reminds me of this guitarist for Ozzy Osbourne, Zakk Wylde. He's from Brooklyn, and he's got that accent that you're talking about. He looks like a Viking.
I know what you mean. And who's that bloke did that record? Was it, he's a Canadian, wasn't he? I can't think of the name of the show now. It just goes an humming noise. Oh crumbs. Now hang on a minute. Hang on. I've been reprimanded. Says Mark Anthony says Wendy's is still going. Eric, there is one in my area. Oh, didn't know that. Oh, so they haven't pulled out. I thought they had. Do you still got Woolworths in where you are? No,
I don't know. I'm pretty sure we don't. We don't have Sears either. We used to have Sears.
Yeah, they're still going in Australia. I know that Woolworths.
Yeah, they've got Woolworth in Australia.
Yeah. You used to call them Woolies. That's what we used to call them. Woolies.
Yeah.
Sears. Yeah, they were the big store, weren't they, in America? Sears.
Well, yeah, like we were talking about in Chicago, they had the Sears Tower. It's still there, but they call it something else now. It used to be the tallest building in the world. And the guy who designed it actually designed the what do they call that tower in Dubai?
Oh, I know the one.
The big tower that's the tallest building. The same outfit, same architect. And they're building a bigger one now, I think, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
That's going to be even taller. And it's the same guy.
Have you ever been to Sears Tower and stood on that glass floor and looked down?
It's spooky because you go up to the top floor and the wind affects the floor. You can feel it moving.
It's like the post office tower that we got in London.
And you look down and everything looks like little ants, smaller than ants crawling around. It's crazy.
I suffer from a disease when I get up high. It's called cowardice.
Called vertigo.
Oh yeah.
Cowardice.
I can't stand heights. I just can't handle it. I just can't do it. And I actually went to the top of what building was it now? Just to go. There was before the IRA bombed it. It was a bank building in City of London, and I went up to the top there. And bloody hell! When I got out the top, I went, ah! Shit.
I suppose it's like getting sea legs, where if you're around it enough, you get used to it. Perhaps.
No, I just can't stand heights. I'm not very good. I feel queasy on a bleeding step ladder. Now, Jolly Man says the Vikings used rose quartz to predict the position of the moon to navigate across the earth. When the sky was overcast, no visible moon, but knew its position. Clever sods. And they landed in America, so they say. Newfoundlands, so they say.
Mm-hmm.
And they found Viking remains in New England. So there's something there. But what was the local tribes where you were? I mean, that was it. It wasn't the Cherokees, was it? No,
the Ojibwe.
The Ojibwe. Are they still around? Do you still get the Ojibwe?
Yeah. I have an aunt that's a Ojibwe.
Really?
half Ojibwe.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are like Catholic, like they converted to Catholicism. And you go way back in my family on my mom's side to the 1600s, and the French came and intermarried with the Indians.
Oh.
And so like Huron was a tribe. It's also a lake, and one of the Great Lakes in Canada.
Wow.
So yeah, French Indian is common.
What about
Mix.
Mohicans? Weren't they up near where you were?
Yeah, they're near New York.
Oh, I didn't
that
know
area.
that. Yeah. But
Yeah, they're the ones that helped build the skyscrapers and that. The
oh,
Iroquois.
because that's
the
right.
Tribe of Iroquois, I think.
They came over here to do
Algonquin.
the kind of the city. They got this huge building, and I think it's Canada Square, because they've got no fear of height, have they? They've got no fear of.
Yeah, a lot of them helped to build Manhattan and the skyscrapers because it's actually their land originally. So it's like they were hired to build a lot of the structures there
Yeah.
originally.
But I'll tell you one thing the missionaries did, which was fantastic, and I think it was in the Caribbean or Pacific Islands. There was two tribes that were always at war, always fighting each other. And when the missionaries got there, this is true, they still do it to this day.
Yep.
Missionaries got there. I think it was English missionaries. They brought in, they decided to show them how to play cricket. So when the tribes have a disagreement, they play cricket now. It's much more better, isn't it? They all sitting back there in the jungle.
Well, that was a big thing too, like games.
Yeah.
I'm in reading about the Jesuits that came over here. They would come and they'd codify the language because they wanted to be able to preach the gospel to them. So they'd translate the Bible into the Native American language. And in codifying it, they came across their witch doctors and sorcerers.
Yeah.
And what the sorcerers would do, they would actually hold games between the tribes to settle disputes and that kind of thing.
This is what they do on these islands. So they play a game of cricket. I think that's civilized. So you never think of it, go and play cricket. And but that's one good thing that the missionaries have done. And this is the thing: is that
yeah, it's better than chopping their heads off.
well, that's right. But
You
what gets me is when you see these films like Dancing with Wolves and that, as if the American Indians were such lovely people. No, they're bleeding savages. Sorry.
No, unfortunately, men are men, and the wild men are wild men.
Very wild. And when what was his name there, walks into that Indian camp, he wouldn't have survived 3 seconds. I mean, they would have scalped him. They'd have pinned him out. They would have tortured him. Not go in there and bloody talk English to him. No, that just wouldn't have happened. Rubbish.
Yeah, exactly. You had to be prudent.
Yeah,
for sure.
And
even prudence had its limits.
Well, that's right. Was it Man Called Horse? Biggest load of crap I've ever seen. Bleeding laugh it was. But it's based loosely on a true story. Apparently, an English bloke was accepted by the Indians. I don't know how true it is, but they said it was, and it's based on a true story.
I believe it because like the book I read was about Saint Isaac Jacques, who was a martyr, got killed by Indians, and not all of them were savages, and there were quite a number that were peaceful, and made peace with the settlers, and learned the language, the English and the French. They learned those languages and ended up becoming leaders and civilizing people. Because it's not like we have tribes of Indians out there scalping people anymore. It's obviously the encounter between them was a positive thing.
Now, Julie, now Pink Planet has got problems here with a supervisor where she works. So I'm going to tell all the Melanie customers to ask for her. She won't last. She doesn't want to talk to staff. Says she's above pay grade. Don't want to be bothered with 160 staff. She's Polish. Oh dear. Well, I think the best thing is if she's rude to you is to just look her straight in the eye and say that's disrespectful, and then just
Yeah,
say nothing more.
The best thing you can do is just, not worry about making friends, but just don't make an enemy of her and just
Yeah.
keep your distance.
Yeah, do what the old contracts bloke says: keep your nose down, and that's what I used to do. Because I used to, when you freelance, you get paid by the hour. So what you do, you just cry all the way to the bank. Someone's upset, she just yeah, don't worry about it. But now, Pink Planet says customers love me as I'm always helpful, and that's nice.
Good.
That's good to hear. That is. Yes. I don't think I could do a work where I'm dealing with the public all day. I think I'll get a bit upset. I'll get a bit peed off.
Really? You couldn't be a maitre d' in a fancy restaurant?
Nah.
No?
Like have you ever dealt with with public at all?
No.
No, no have I. I don't. I'm not a great public enthusiast.
Selling vegetables on the roadside is about the closest I've come to that.
Yeah. Oh, you have to do that in the States. Sell vegetables
why
on the
not?
roadsides.
Yeah.
Oh, over here, bloody hell, they'd jump on you because you have to have a license and things like that. Yeah. Is it the same in America? You have to have a license, or can you
No.
trade?
I mean, I guess if you were regularly in one spot, maybe.
Really, I didn't know that. Crumbs. Oh, they've got nothing but rules and regulations in this country. This is why it's the nearest thing to living in communism. It really is. Anything you want to do, you've got to have a license for this, license for that. Oh, it's terrible. I mean, the local market, there's inspectors walking around and things like that to see if everything's okay.
And then to get permission, it's a bureaucracy because nobody wants to take responsibility.
Now, Pink Planet says, I'm a Sagittarius. Remember, Eric?
Sagittarius?
Are you such a Sagittarius? Oh, that's nice to know. Well, I'm full of BS because I'm a Taurus, you see. So there we are. So, but now, no. So, what did you start your own business with selling vegetables and things?
No, it's just excess sweet corn and that garden vegetables.
Oh, very nice too. But
it's easier just to give them away, though. I've found.
Yes. Well, there was a house round the corner to where I live. They have a box and they put apples in it and say, "Take what you want." And and another one says, "Put some money in if you want." So
yeah. Well, if you think about it, it goes to rot. If you have too many, you have too many. It's like, why sell it? Just give it away. Help other people.
Well, I think they should grow apple trees and things like that, sort of where everybody can pick them. In public places. Why not? I mean, it help a lot of people. My phone just fallen over. But it would help a lot of people. And there's a lot, I wouldn't say there's starving people, but there is going to be with this El Nino. Have you heard about that? Which apparently it's like the 1877 one, which caused starvation for millions. Have you heard? And what it is that you get you don't get the monsoon in India and in parts of Africa, which you should do. And it causes rice crop failures and all kinds of other things like that. And there was millions of people killed in 1877 because of it. Have you heard about that at all, Patrick?
The El Nino effect?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard. I mean, I've heard of the El Nino, but I don't know exactly what it means.
Well, apparently, I don't know the full details, but it causes excess problems with the weather. So where it's normally dry, it's wet, and when it's normally wet, it's dry. So it upsets the monsoon season in India. I think they have a monsoon in Africa, don't they? I'm not sure about that one. And where it's normally chucking it down with rain, it gets very, very dry and arid. And there's summer that.
So it offsets. So you have one part of the world that's completely wet, and the other part that's dry, where the moisture's been taken from and brought.
That's right. Yes. So who knows? But the thing is that this summer is quite extraordinary. Is it the same where you are in Wisconsin? Sort of extraordinarily dry and extraordinarily hot.
Yeah. I haven't had to mow the lawn in over a month.
Yeah.
which usually I'm doing it every week because it's growing so dense. But it's just been so dry, I haven't even gone out to do that. It's probably been well over a month now.
Well, Embryo summed it up. He says, I think it's another name for weather manipulation. I think you're spot on, mate.
I don't know. I'm a skeptic when it comes to weather manipulation.
Ah,
Yeah, or just climate, the climate change crowd in general. I'm a complete skeptic. Modification or any of it. I think it's natural, but then again,
happy birthday. We got the birth dog.
Yeah, happy belated birthday, Donald.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm so late, but
that's all right.
Better late than never.
Celebration. Yeah.
Celebration time, yes. And I don't know about you, Donald. I could say this because we're the same age. It's funny being an old person, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
The same age as elderly people.
I can't hide it anymore. Yeah, I know. 70, boy, that seems old, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Seems really
But
old.
the funny is, you got more of a thatching on your roof than I have. I lost all my thatching.
Yeah.
I have a short black and polish now, yeah. But it saves me a fortune. I don't have to go to the hairdressers. It's just
Saves your money.
That's right. But no, it is funny because we were the last generation, as I was saying on our email, to remember the First World War generation.
Yeah.
And also, did you use a slide rule before electronic calculators?
Yeah, we had slide rule, but I mentioned in my Substack I wrote about this, and of course people called me I was an idiot because they obviously don't understand history. But I said, the last Civil War widow died in 2003. People said, that's impossible. That's 148 years. I said, these old Civil War veterans married very young girls. It happened a lot back then to get their pensions. So the last one died in 2003. So that's how connected we are to the past.
Really? That is interesting.
Yep.
I didn't know that. But we were saying earlier that we got this romantic view of the Indians with films like Dances with Wolves and things like that. And what was that one? The Man Called Horse. Mm-hmm. But they were bloody savages. And we civilized them, basically. But they're kind of losing that in the text, aren't they, in the agenda?
Well, they've gone from one extreme to the other, before they had the cowboys and Indians. When we were little, that was all the rage. And, they had white men playing Indians and ridiculous language like how I'm doing. Ridiculous language.
We had a show called How. And I tell you that this is a cracker, this one is. Did you ever have Tonka toys when you was a kid?
Yeah.
Probably didn't.
Tonka.
Or they had, was it Real Tough Toys for Real Tough Boys?
Yeah. Well, now they wouldn't let you have it. They're too dangerous, probably.
Well, precisely. One evening on the television, I've never forgotten it. I was off my seat with laughter. I think it must have been the director or some bigwig in the company that said, or whether he did it for a bet, I don't know. He was sitting there. You think about it. He's a European, very much overweight, too many of the old, drinking and that. Made up like a red Indian. He goes, in a real Cockney accent, real tough choice for real tough boys. How? And real American Indians, they would have been off their seat with laughter as well. I've never forgotten that. And it happened once on an advert. And I'm wondering whether the bloke did it for a bet.
I doubt Donald's seen the movie Carry On Cowboy.
Oh, yes. Have you seen it?
I don't think I have.
No, you wouldn't have. It's British comedy, so it's like
well,
pretending to be Indians.
Comedy, I know Monty Python real well, and beyond that, I don't know a whole lot.
Well, if you go onto YouTube, you can't see the whole film, but you can see parts of the film. Carry On Cowboy.
It's body humor.
Okay.
Yes, and the actors deliberately put on a bad American accent, and it's hysterical. I mean, Sid James, who was South African originally, and none of them could do an American accent. So if an American's watching it, it's probably double funny. And it was just, it was all innuendo humor and typical English humor. Yeah, it's just typical British humor. there's like, for example, you have the teepees there and the Indians, and suddenly you actually
Flush.
hear this flush going, and I go back and that's better, But no, you got to see it to believe it. It was about a sanitary engineer. They did and muddle things up. They sent a sanitary engineer to go and clean a town up, and there was a clerical error. They're supposed to send the sheriff, but they sent the sanitary engineer instead. And it's just ridiculous. But what we were saying about earlier about how way things have changed, like with generations things. I mean, how America has changed. America was an industrial powerhouse, and how it has gone to China. If we could go back in time to say, let's say 1965, when you had Detroit shunting out cars and things like that, and tell them what's going to happen within the next, 50, 60 years. Oh, hang on. We've got the end of the show coming. Hang on.
For FFT.
That's right. Yeah. Anyway, we'll be saying good night to Food for Thought Radio soon. But what I was going to say is, and you could tell the people what's going to happen in 50, 60 years' time, that have laughed at you and wouldn't have believed you.
No. Because, I mean, what is bad is, capitalism. We think of capitalism now as, it's crony capitalism. But if you look back in the post-war era, because, you and I have talked about World War II, and there's no good war. It's as bad as everything else. But in America, at least, it was responsible for the greatest economy the world's ever seen, the post-war boom. And capitalism, for a while, became this really great thing where you had, just for kids, you had Mattel and things like that.
That's right.
Companies that made all these cool toys that everybody loved. And you had even advertisements back then. You had a lot of thought that went into them. They were clever, stupid ones like now.
Revell models. Remember Revell?
Oh, yeah. Revell. And
Airfix.
I love the horror models. So they had Aurora.
Aurora, yeah, I remember them. Yeah,
I love those. Yeah, and you had so many, and just in the age of comic books were in their prime at that time. You had DC, mostly DC, but you had a lot of those things that are worth a lot of money. People like me kept them, so I have some valuable ones. But the music business with records, I mean, just the publishing industry. I've had 10 books published, but if I had something like Hidden History published in the 1960s, I would be pretty well off, because it probably would have sold 1 million copies, because there's that many more readers then that were reading books. So now, unfortunately, we've run out of readers, but it just was a whole capitalism meant something. You mentioned Detroit, so you had the cars, especially, that came out of there, and the automotive and the assembly.
Optimistic. Wasn't it optimistic though? Optimistic times. Everything was going to get better. Everything was moon landings, which I think were fake, but it doesn't matter. But it was entertainment. But the thing is that I think there's a big difference between free enterprise and capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very much for free enterprise, but not for capitalism, because capitalism, the ultimate with capitalism is communism, because you destroy your opponent and then you've just got one. Whereas with free enterprise, that's what Henry Ford was on about. He believed in free enterprise.
Isn't capitalism state-imposed usury?
In a way,
be a good definition.
Yeah.
Yeah, and certainly I think there is a huge difference between it. So when we talk about capitalism, I should have said free enterprise, because you still didn't necessarily have that much, but you had a little bit more competition than you've had, obviously, in recent years, where there's no competition at all, with mergers and a few big corporations buying everything. But back then, again, it took me reflecting back on turning 70, how lucky we were to have the childhoods we had, because we lived through the greatest economy the world's ever seen.
Yeah.
And the middle class was formed, the suburbs were being constructed, every job paid a living wage. And you didn't, your father wasn't ashamed if he worked at a department store or something like that, because you could work behind a desk as a clerk and you could raise a family.
Or a janitor.
And also buy a house. That's the other thing. You
buy a house. Yeah.
But the thing that gets me is that everything seemed to be so colourful then. I mean, I think the late 60s, early 70s was a great time to be alive. It really was. Yeah. It's something, and then the balloon popped. Bang! It went just
Well,
sort of
when
overnight.
credit cards became common, when was that?
Yes.
The 70s?
Yeah.
Or even after that, my parents never had a credit card. We never had a credit card. I don't think they ever had any credit cards. I started having one probably. Yeah, I got mine in the late 70s probably.
My parents never did. They never had. If they couldn't afford it, they wouldn't get it.
Yes, that was the
way it is. But when you look at things like Laurel and Hardy films, everything looked, even in the 1920s and 30s, looked very, very futuristic and advanced. Places like California. I mean, all right, we're just looking through a little window, but it looked a really nice place, very clean, very.
Sure.
And when you look at it now, excuse my language, it's a shithole. I mean, it's just, who'd ever think?
Oh, even here, like places like Minneapolis, where you have tents and people living under underpasses and that kind of thing, and it's cold environment. It's like, why would you be here and not in Los Angeles or some warm place where you've got skid rows that are traditionally,
Well, I think however you look at it, at that time there was even in the 20s, I imagine, certainly the Roaring 20s, that was a great time. And then of course the Depression, that changed things a little bit, the Great Depression. But even in that time, you had I think a feeling that hope for the future. There was something that was better going to happen.
That's right.
The great inventions, a lot of those great inventions happened at the end of the 19th and early 20th century. Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla. So you had the light bulb, the motion picture camera, the tape recorder, things like that. And then of course,
television.
Television.
That's the other thing.
Television. Yeah. So all this, and of course later we had the computer chip. But there were, when the computers were invented, again there was this dreams. If you watch. Like Disney World's Tomorrowland and things like that back in the 50s of the world.
Oh, yes.
You look at the future, moving sidewalks and all these incredible flying cars that they had on the Jetsons.
That's it, Jetsons. Yeah. It was all, and also comedy was funny. I mean, we got. I used to particularly like the Addams Family. We had the original black and white was brilliant. Yes. But the film remake, well, I just gave up after 10 minutes. I didn't find that funny at all.
No, even those television, again, it's, if you look back and like I talk about the golden age of Hollywood, if you look back at any film, really any film made between the 1930s and the 1950s, especially, it would have a plot everybody can understand, be interesting. The acting will be fine. The sound will be fine. The lighting will be fine. The production values will be great. You can watch any of them and you can be drawn into the story. It's like reading a good book. And after that, especially in the 60s when drugs came into the picture, the late 60s.
Pornography.
Yes, certainly.
It reminds me of, I think it was 65, they broke the code finally with the pawnbroker where they showed bare breasts on the screen. I remember listening to John Barber talk about that era because it went from that to like pornography in the theaters, Deep Throat. Yeah, he's part of that trial, that indecency trial or whatever it was.
Yeah, and it was, but until you come today, like, I mean, I still watch movies. I still like I went to see the Spider-Man. My son wanted to go see the new Spider-Man. It was, he liked it. I didn't like it much, but that is with every movie pretty much now. I think it's more, just CGI and just to me the stories, woke elements and the racial swapping.
That's it. I mean, I still think that Gladiator, and it's historically inaccurate, but it was a very good film because the acting, they really put something into it. I mean, they were really good actors in that. Yeah, and that's real acting. And but I've seen a little bit of the remake on YouTube. I couldn't stop laughing. They had a rhinoceros, a bloke on a rhinoceros. Sorry, you can't domesticate a rhinoceros. Totally and utterly inaccurate.
Yeah.
And then a bloke said, "Okay, we've all got to stand together." That's not acting. I mean, it sounded a bit like Elton John. So, okay, right, we all got to stand together. No, it didn't have presence. It didn't have. It just lacked it, and it's a bit like the remake of The Italian Job. Didn't work for me either.
It's the movies they make today. They don't. One of my. I think I'm the only one talking about it. But people, when they want to write about it, say, "Yeah, me too." But nobody talks about how bad the sound is. The whispering dialogue, it drives me crazy. Where they're whispering, you can't hear them.
The soundtrack, where it's just noises and there's no plot, where you could listen to just the audio and get a sense of it. Like Star Wars is an example of one where you could listen to the audio
Yeah.
soundtrack on its own and follow the plot. But the
Yeah.
movies gradually became more and more about sound effects and the experiential rather than the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, and
And-
it makes no sense not to have the dialogue as the most essential part. You have to be able to hear it. So if you have to struggle to hear it, that's stupid. But
Well, a lot of the
everything they
good Hollywood films came out of people doing radio plays, like Orson Welles doing The Shadow,
do, right?
and that sort of thing, lended well into the theater because
It's artistic.
you could follow along.
That's right. I tell you the one that really got up my ooter, which was, and it's a real agenda type film. That was Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. The biggest load of old what's it ever. I felt like walking out the cinema when that was on.
I don't think I saw that. No.
Oh, you didn't miss much. It was with David Bowie, and
yeah.
it's supposed to be in a Japanese POW camp. And it's about a couple of hello ducky blokes. And I'm sorry, that was an insult to people in Japanese POW camps. The whole thing was a load of fiction. It's supposed to be a true story. I don't think it was. Why do they have to focus on things like that? And it's a bit like Bridge Over the River Kwai. Now that was made in the 60s. I don't know if you've ever seen the film The Bridge Over the River Kwai.
I can't watch war films. I can't watch them. So I never watch. I know the
David
theme
Lean?
song, but that was about it.
Was
Well,
that David Lean that did that?
David Lean, and
Yeah.
I know the daughter. I did know. I worked with the daughter. She was a secretary of a chap who was an advisor on that film. Her father was actually in a Japanese POW camp and worked on the Bridge Over the River Kwai. And when they saw the film premiered, they all walked out with disgust because David Lean didn't listen to a word they said. He said it's pure fiction. And the people thought, oh, that was what a Japanese POW camp was like. No, it wasn't. And, a lot of this, Hollywood has got a lot to answer for. And I remember,
Whitewashing history.
Well, I remember we showed Saving Private Ryan to my father, who was actually in D-Day, first one in, next to where Saving Private Ryan is depicted. And he was actually, as they're going through the water, that he was pulling dead GIs, bodies out the way, because the Americans went in a half hour before the British. And he's saying, that's wrong. We heard by Spielberg wasn't there.
Well, and that's just it. A lot of Hollywood had interloping with the military, and a lot of people that were trained as cinematographers, for instance, would come back and become Hollywood directors. And I remember reading the story about Bernard Baruch, who was one of the people responsible for financing World War I and World War II. And his brother was out in Hollywood financing films at the same time to get interest into getting people to go to war and become warlike. And it's the same people nowadays, too, that get control of the censorship of who gets to be platformed and who doesn't get to be platformed. It's the same thing because the propaganda works that way. If you take dissenting voices and you squelch them so they can't be heard, you're gonna be able to control the narrative of history in a way that previous generations couldn't do it with technology. And it's always whatever the emerging technology is, and who has control of it usually tends to be the most well-financed people in that. So.
Well, now we've got a question here. Exo. Oh, David. He said, what does Donald think of accounts, testimonies of the likes of Bryce Taylor and Kathy O'Brien?
Well, I'm not sure about Bryce Taylor. Kathy O'Brien was on my podcast some years ago.
Really?
So I'm very familiar with her. Yeah, she obviously talked about child sex trafficking, and she was the most memorable thing I remember about her was that she talked about how I think it was in Florida, they had like a huge area, fenced-in area, where people, and she mentioned Dick Cheney, among them, played a twisted version of The Most Dangerous Game. If you've seen that film from 1932, it's the one where the demented explorer on an island hunts humans.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Wasn't Ernest Hemingway involved in that? I don't. Okay. I might
I'm
not.
not sure. I'm not sure.
They made a remake. I've seen the remake of that film.
But Kathy claimed that this is what they were doing with kids like her, that Dick Cheney and all these other rich people were hunting them. And I don't know what happened when they got them, if they killed them or ate them or had sex with them. I don't know. But just that's the word. It's amazing she got out alive, of course, and she's still running.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut across you there, but what I was going to
No,
say is the royals apparently do that in this country. They hunt children down. And there was a corpse found up a tree. And the attitude was, no, sort of almost, that's where we left it. But that was all about 20 years ago, 10 years ago.
Buckingham Palace, the grounds of Buckingham Palace, right? Yeah, didn't they also have a naked guy coming down coming out?
That's
of the,
it.
Yeah,
that's it. It's really weird, but this is an interesting one. The Jollyman. It says the USA purchased the titanium off Russia to build the SR-71 to spy on the Russians. Now, that is an interesting. Now, your book, Hidden History, I'm fascinated. Better not give too much away, but what sort of areas does it cover? Plug.
Hidden History covers everything from the JFK assassination. It's a lot about the JFK assassination up until through the Obama years. I mean, it was published in 2014, so Trump's not mentioned in the book, believe it or not. So it was before he altered the political scene. So it covers JFK very thoroughly. It covers I'm the first one to write about JFK Jr. That's when I first started investigating JFK Jr.'s, what I think was his assassination. RFK, MLK, Iran-Contra, October surprise, all the Clinton scandals, Oklahoma City, Waco, it's all the way through the Obama birther type stuff. So everything is in there.
Wow, that's fascinating. Available, I believe, on Amazon, is it? And
it's available anywhere you can find it. That's still by far my best-selling book. I mean, I don't think any of the others are going to catch it.
I'd like to get you on with John Hamer, because he's written about Kennedy assassination. He reckons it was a British plot.
Sure.
But I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there. but the thing that gets me is that Ronald Reagan and Thatcher got into power. Now, I think Thatcher was a closet Fabian. I really do. And they both destroyed the industrial heartlands of their countries. And
yes, they did.
And people often said, Commie Reagan. He was a Republican, yes, but he was like a communist in many ways. But I throw up my hands in horror. Those people were basically traitors. And how these traitors are getting away with it.
Basically, Reagan had many similarities to Trump in terms of his public persona was so different than what he actually was, because he didn't, if you look at most people then, immigration was just starting to be an issue in America, and everybody that supported Reagan wanted to do something about it. They wanted to close the border and contain illegal immigration, which was nothing back then, but it was already getting to be a problem. So what did he do? In 1986, they passed the Immigration Reform Act, which granted amnesty to millions of people, family members, and opened the barn door forever. And that was the last chance we had to really solve it. But if I show in American Memory Hole, my latest book, I show his record. He was always open borders, and he never pretended to be otherwise. He didn't lie necessarily like Trump did, but it's just his base was so stupid. And I remember back then arguing, I was a blue collar worker, and then he never cut a single government program. I don't know what Thatcher did, but Reagan not a single sub-agency. And all the people I work with are saying, yeah, keep going, Reagan, cut that government. I said, he's not cutting any government. Cut our taxes. He's not cutting your taxes. He cut the taxes of the 1%, who went from 72 to 28%. He got a massive tax cut, and he actually raised the tax rate on the lowest percent from 15 to 17%. So he actually raised the rate, and he raised Social Security taxes, and he's the one that made Social Security taxes subject to taxation. They're already taxed, so it's a double tax. And yet the Republicans today, they still look at him on some kind of tax cutter, anti-government. No, he expanded government, he expanded the debt, he expanded the deficit. He did nothing. He didn't cut one single agency. He let immigration go through the roof. He messed up the tax code. At that time, you had a bunch of people that wanted to abolish the income tax or change to a national sales tax. He was the worst of both worlds. He passed a reform act that got rid of all the deductions that the poor and working class could use. No more credit card deductions for interest or car loans. He barely kept the home mortgages. He wanted to get rid of that. So again, he was a disaster by any merit. It just kills me where these Republicans, still, when they named an airport near here for him, and they've named all kinds of stuff for him, and they're going to do the same thing. They'll do the same thing with Reagan.
He was highly opposed to a wealth tax.
Yeah,
and he wanted to keep, like you said, the income tax, which is bogus because poor people end up having to pay equally with rich people. It's like the Secretary of Warren Buffett paying more in taxes than Warren Buffett does because he's able to get out of it through corporate loopholes.
This is what gets me is that government really is not government. It's run by industrialists because they're all being bought. And someone suggested that the politicians ought to have, like racing car drivers, they have who sponsors them on their jackets.
Yeah.
That's what the politicians ought to have, who sponsors them. Because it's as bent as anything. But there was something odd about Reagan. There was something odd about Thatcher. How they both got in at exactly the same time. And they both wrecked the countries. But still, people look on Thatcher as a heroine.
Yeah.
Oh, she was marvelous. She did this. She did that. She absolutely screwed this country. She just
looted
it. That's right. Yeah.
And they both just lucked out too in terms of they happened to be in power when the Soviet Union fell, so they get credit for that when they really did nothing. And as you know, the worst thing that happened was the industrial base. America went from being an industrial country, and I'm sure England did too, where we had factories. They all began to get same thing with our foreign policy. Reagan, the birth of the neocon, really the Israeli lobby really became born for real in the Reagan years. That's when you had Paul Wolfowitz and all these people that showed up as Richard Pearl and almost all Jewish that showed up in the the Defense Department and the Pentagon, and they're the ones that started pushing foreign policy to be for nothing but the benefit of Israel. And Reagan allowed that, and ever since then, the neocons have never been out of power. Our foreign policy was changed in the 1980s, where it's completely just for Israel, nothing else.
Well, and also American exceptionalism too, because America is kind of like they're both tied at the hip of the sort. But I'm reading a book right now you'd be interested in, Donald. It's called Ally versus Ally: America, Europe, and the Siberian Pipeline by Anthony J. Blinken.
I've heard
written in 1987. And it's about how the Soviet Union overextended itself and led to the collapse of the Soviet Union. He wrote it in 87, just as they were building this Siberian oil pipeline from Siberia to Europe. And all of these European companies that were contracted to build the pipes and all of that became the Nord Stream pipeline and that sort of thing.
That's not the same Tony Blinken that was in the Biden administration, is it? Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow. I didn't know
his stepfather, Samuel Pisar, was the lawyer of Robert Maxwell.
Wow.
The guy.
Wow.
He was like the last person to talk to him while he was alive on the boat was Samuel Pisar.
And it's officially known that Maxwell was done in by Mossad.
Right.
Yeah,
that's not a conspiracy. That's the actual fact that he was done in by Mossad.
Yeah, you would think so. I see Exo here reads my work. He's saying the non-Irish. That's my term for them.
That's right. Don't I? But you're right. But what forgot me? I mean, I heard the other day. I don't know how true it is. I'm not sure which aircraft carrier it is, but the crew, the food is crap, the equipment is crap, and the forces, they're really cutting back so much that the uniforms are not very good, whereas American uniforms and American equipment was the best in the world at one time. What's happened? And it was the same with British.
Yeah, sure.
You had British uniforms and equipment. It was good quality. Not now. It's rubbish. I mean, when you look at a lot of NATO stuff, look at the army surplus stuff, it's a bit actually. It's not that good. It's rubbish.
Well, it is. Well, here in America, when you used to appliances for the home, things like that. I mean, things that were built to last, and they're not built to last anymore at all. They don't. Even though they look seemingly better, they're technologically advanced and they're digital, but they are crap and they don't last. And it's just you can't. I remember on the Spotlight, which I was a subscriber to back in the 80s and 90s, when they were talking about how you can't have a full, just a service economy. And that's what America has done. We become a full, just a service economy.
Same, yeah. The only work there is flipping hamburgers or delivering. That's the other one, delivering stuff. That's the only expanding area.
Yeah, Uber Eats and everything, DoorDash. That's, is that Uber drivers? I mean,
yeah.
Is that that's the new job opportunities? But that's what's there. Other than that, you don't hear from it because the people that are in the media and in politics, none of them or nobody they love is subject to try. They all have connections, but so they don't understand what's even going on out there and how hard it is. But I hear from people all the time. A guy that I work with in IT before, and I just found out that he and the rest of the people there are getting laid off, and they're going to have to train their Indian visa worker replacements, which is just another slap in the face. He's in his probably mid to late 50s. He has no, he has no. There's nothing there. He'll be lucky to get a job at Home Depot, and it's all. And
you say this is Ford?
No, this is in IT. This is in it's
IT.
in healthcare, but it's in IT. But it's like India has taken over IT. With the foreign visa workers. And again, I saw JD Vance complaining about it. And of course, I commented on X to him, like he ever reads my comments. But I said, if only you had a president that you were working for that had promised to end this foreign visa program, which he did. And instead, he's increased the number of visa workers. And they're still complaining about it as if they had no power over it. End the foreign visa program. Trump could have done that.
He said he said he was going to end war too. The Ukrainian war was going to end day one. Look what that got us. Nowhere.
Yes. Well, the non-Irish had something to do with that.
Definitely the non. But what makes Trump worse than Reagan when we compare them is that Reagan didn't make a lot of those promises. People just inferred. Because he was kind of a likable guy. He was an actor, professional actor. And people inferred that, this is what he's going to do. And he never did it. But he didn't make the kind of grandiose promises. Trump made so many great promises. If he had done, 1/10 of the things he said, America would be so much better. But he did nothing. He hasn't kept any of them.
We've got another Donald Trump coming along in this country. And that's Rupert Lowe, his name. I call him Rupert the Bear. And he's telling everybody what they want to hear. And these people are clever at doing that.
A populist.
That's right. Thatcher did it. Blair did it. And then they get into power and do the complete opposite. Because the usury scammers say, if you don't do that, we'll, shall we say...
Is he going to stop the Muslim rape gangs? Or is that going to stop that?
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is that this country is changing beyond comprehension. For example... it's just become a completely different culture. And I guess it's the same in the States. We're almost becoming Muslim, really.
That's kind of what's on the grow here in America. Like the WASP elite are no longer, so they're being replaced, and as they die out because they're doing it because they practice contraception and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
so and they're just dying out. So they're being replaced as time goes on. And an example of this is that I was talking earlier about that person in Michigan that the AIPAC ran a candidate against. They spent like $30 million. It was super expensive, and they still lost. And then Trump got sour grapes and started calling him in impotent language a communist, like somehow or another. And it's a Muslim from Michigan. And it's like, that's the future. Like Mondami, he's the mayor of New York City. It's like people are done with the LGBT perversion stuff, and you've got the replacement now of Muslims coming in.
We got Sadiq Khan in London, mayor of London. Absolutely horrendous. Yeah. Luckily, I'm out of London, so
they've overplayed their hand with the whole Gaza massacre that's been taking place. So people on the left now are sounding like people on the right, and you can't tell the difference anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like they're going to have a big group of people moving over to the Democrats now because Nobody wants to be a Zionist.
But do we need
Trump.
government? When you look at it, the times of history when we have
No,
not had
but
government,
I
things
don't
have
think we
worked.
need. I don't think we need to participate in it. But the people that do participate in it and fall for it are going that way. So
yeah,
it
I
doesn't
agree
matter
with
what
you
we
there.
think.
Yeah, I mean, Rupert Lowe, I wouldn't be at all surprised if he gets into power, and he'd do exactly the same as Blair and Thatcher. Exactly the same, because it's like changing the head of the mafia. You know, if we could vote for the head of the mafia, it's not going to make the slave owners. You know, what slave owners do you want over you? We don't want any. And this is the thing. When you look at, for example, Poland, when the Berlin Wall came down, they didn't have a government for 2 years, and most Poles will tell you it's the best time they've had in their lives. You know, they could start a business, do anything they wanted, because no government's breathing down their neck. And there's loads of other occasions when there hasn't been government and things
Well, like
have worked.
the fall of the Roman Empire, St. Augustine was there for the fall of the Roman Empire, and he basically said man has as many masters as he has vices. So the problem being, you know, we fall into vice, and that becomes our problem. So if we
Yeah.
you know, drugs, alcohol, that's a perfect example of it. Like someone who's an
Drums.
alcoholic can't function.
Yeah.
So stop drinking alcohol. That's the solution.
But
And-
you're right. You're right. But there's something interesting you said a little bit earlier, Patrick, and so I didn't know this. The Turks have actually stopped they stopped
Russians.
Russians going through the Dardanelles.
Right.
So
They're
they're
taking over Odessa and stopping traffic for the Ukrainian NATO people. Because the Turks are part of NATO.
Yeah. Now that is very, very dangerous because there was, as I said earlier, there was that South African chap who could foretell the future, and he said that the next war will start with Russia invading Turkey. So
South African bloke.
yeah, I can't think of his name now. Someone to come up with it in chat. But Exo's got a question for you. So Exo, it's got here, how much question? How much reality does Donald think exists in the supposed Secret Service leaked claim about the relationship between JFK and Marilyn Monroe? If real, how did RFK fit into things?
Well, yeah, Marilyn Monroe was killed by somebody. She didn't kill herself. I think the evidence shows that.
Yes.
But I don't think, you know, again, you have to, I'm a Kennedy fanboy, but I think there's so many of them have been killed. There's no evidence that they were evil people in real life, I mean, in their private lives. I don't think they murdered Marilyn. I don't think RFK, because when they talk about this, then the Kennedy haters kind of come out and say, well, you know, RFK was supposedly seen there that afternoon. I don't know if that's credible or not. Peter Lawford was seen there. I don't know. Apparently something might have been going on, but again, you have to look at all these stories that have to do with the Kennedys since Judith Campbell Exner burst on the scene in the 70s. All of them came from that, and she's completely uncredible. She's changed her story a million times. She didn't even mention the mafia at all in her initial press conference. But so much of this, and this includes the stories about old Joe Kennedy, going back to the bootlegging days and all that, and did he have an affair with Gloria Swanson? I don't know. Possibly, I guess. But we don't know. And is that the greatest crime, you know, an incredibly rich guy can do, sleeping with a movie star? To me, that's pretty much a victimless crime when you compare it to some of the stuff these other billionaires. It's much better than eating babies. But in terms of whether he was sleeping with Marilyn Monroe, I don't know. If he was probably doing something that every man in America wanted to do, maybe anywhere in the world wanted to do. So I don't know. RFK, there's rumors he was and wasn't. But I don't think, you know, in my opinion, she was killed by the same people that killed him and his brother as kind of a warning that, you know, we can kill the biggest movie star in the world. And you know, for instance, it was found that for those who think the Kennedys did it, when an actress, I can't remember her name now, with Hill Street Blues. I wrote about this in my book, On Borrowed Fame. She bought the Marilyn Monroe's house later in the 80s, and when she had it renovated. So she had the walls torn out, and she found all kinds of sophisticated videotape and audio taping equipment that were government equipment from the FBI that had been installed there. So Marilyn Monroe is being surveilled. And I don't think I don't think J. Edgar Hoover was surveilling her for the Kennedys, who he hated. So she was murdered by somebody, no question. But I don't even think that there was I don't think it's been proven that there was a relationship. I think it kind of serves as a distraction. I think we had to establish that, yeah, she was killed, so they lied about that. But when you look at the stuff JFK was killed for, pulling out of Vietnam, trying to stop Israel from developing nuclear weapons, and getting AIPAC to register as a foreign agent, maybe abolishing the CIA, trying to rein in the mafia, maybe doing something about the Federal Reserve. These are all things that he apparently was doing.
He was, yes.
I don't know how you can, think that he somehow found time to murder. I don't know how he had time for so much sex either in there, because on the one hand,
that was that. Yeah. I don't think he was a sex maniac. I think
no. Well, they say on the one hand that he was too sick to be president, and the Kennedy family covered up his Addison's disease. He should have never been president. He was too sick. He could have died at any minute. But he was also having nonstop sex with the most popular movie stars in the world. How does that work? They don't equate. You can't one or the other, maybe, but they want it both ways. And the whole idea was to destroy Kennedy's reputation and destroy the reputation of the entire Kennedy family. And that way people would stop caring about what happened to them. Well, who cares?
Exo said he did have a back brace, apparently. So Exo says, but the other one that Exo's asked is, do you think it's true she had this is Marilyn Monroe, had a UFO diary from chats with JFK and RFK?
Well, that's one of the, there's a school of thought that said, JFK, just like Eisenhower supposedly met the aliens at Roswell or something. I don't believe in aliens, so I don't.
Yeah.
What kind of UFO diary? I mean, again, that kind of goes into a different area. And JFK was a private person. And the idea that he would be, if he slept with Marilyn Monroe, I don't think he was the type to be sharing a lot of political inside information with a movie star. I mean, that would, first of all, it could, make it easier to blackmail him. And so I don't think it's the same thing with Mary Meyer, who's Cord Meyer's big CIA official's wife, who was murdered, unquestionably, and was associated in some way with JFK. But a lot of people believe like she was helping him and stuff. I don't think that's, if he was sleeping with her, he was sleeping with her. I don't know. But I don't think JFK was the kind of guy that would have been sharing inside information with people, especially somebody like Marilyn Monroe, who was
sorry, I didn't mean to cut across you there, but Exo said JFK had a back brace, and he went on to say not good for, shall we say, having sex. So
yeah, that's supposedly the case. And again, he's to what degree his back was? He played golf all the time. He played touch football. I don't know. I think some of that's been exaggerated. Rocky Road says about the sins of the father, Joseph P. Kennedy, and the dynasty he founded. I read that book. I've read all the things on, and I'm probably Joseph P. I just did an interview with Redacted earlier this week.
You did?
It'll be on soon. And mostly it was about the guy who was fascinated by the Joseph P. Kennedy Sr. stuff. And because I think I was only defender. I think Joseph P. Kennedy Sr., JFK's dad, was one of the great heroes of the 20th century. And
he tried to get us out of World War II. He was the UK ambassador.
Absolutely.
From America.
He was part of the America First movement. And he was also, RFK Jr. Revealed a lot about him in his book, Family Values. He was a World War I protester too. He was against, so he had a history of being anti-war. So when JFK would later make his great peace speech in 1963, which signed his death warrant, American University, he came by it naturally. His father was a peacenik. And he was, to be against World War II was, especially somebody in his position, he was a very wealthy capitalist banker. And he came out and joined that movement, the America First movement. And, as he said, I have a vested interest here. I have two sons that are fighting age, and he has a great deal to lose. And he did lose his oldest son, Joe Jr., who died in a nonsensical bombing mission where he was sent to bomb a Nazi station that had been abandoned. Made no sense at all. His plane blew up. He also lost his daughter in a separate plane crash. So this man experienced so much tragedy And then, of course,
That
he lost
sounds
two.
a bit convenient, doesn't it? Two plane crashes. It's very convenient.
What are the odds? And then Ted Kennedy later in 1962 had another plane crash. He survived it, but 3 people died in it. So you tell me what the odds would be of having 3 children in 3 separate plane crashes. I mean, that's got to be infinitesimal. And not to mention 2 sons murdered. He essentially lost another daughter in Rosemary, he's been criticized for as if he wanted this to happen, where he actually he was trying to make her normal. She was slow in the parlance of the times. They called people slow back then. And he tried to make her normal, up to speed or up to snuff or whatever he would say, by undergoing what was then considered a miracle procedure. It just came into being, frontal lobotomy. He had to fly to Switzerland and pay a lot of money to do it. Nobody but a rich guy could. He had no idea it was going to backfire like that. I mean, and if people criticize him, like he wanted that to happen. He wanted his beautiful daughter to be left as like a 2-year-old. So the man experienced more tragedy than anything you find in Shakespeare's plays or Greek tragedy or anything. I find it the 20th century. Joe Kennedy is more fascinating about Joe Kennedy is that he was obviously a 1%er, very wealthy man. Back then, all fathers tended to be a little more hands-off. They weren't, they didn't, and anybody with his money would have been completely hands-off. The nannies and everybody would have done it. And they had it, but he was hands-on. He ate dinner with his family every night, and they had current events discussions. And he discussed the Federal Reserve. And he talked a lot about the non-Irish, with lots of information about that. He talked quite a bit about that. JFK and RFK heard a lot about them. And how many fathers did that? How many? You think the Rockefeller fathers did that? Or
Precisely.
Very, very unusual. And what I also found out from RFK's book, RFK Jr.'s book, I knew nothing about it. There was a commission on the CIA in the 1950s that Joe Kennedy Sr. sat on to investigate the CIA when Eisenhower was president. He was the most outspoken member of it, and recommended that their power be severely curtailed in the 1950s. Nobody was doing that. So, and then here you have Alan Dulles, the director at the time. He sees his son Jack become president, guy he has to hate. Same guy Joe Kennedy Sr. Churchill hated, FDR hated, all the people hated, Roosevelt, all of them. And he gets elected president. And what happens? The Bay of Pigs thing, JFK fires him. So he fires Alan Dulles. He already hated his father. So imagine the kind of enemies he was making there in the halls of the CIA. So I think it's a lot of myth. As RFK Jr. says, all of those stories from bootlegging to the mob and the 1960 election and all that stuff all comes from CIA and mafia sources, every single one.
Yeah. I agree with you. They wrote, a lot of them write the history. Well, Hollywood writes the history, basically. That's what we generally get. But with I know that he was JFK's father was ambassador, wasn't he?
Yeah, to Great Britain, yeah.
Yeah, and he said, I think it was in 1940, that Britain was finished. He was right.
Yeah. Friends with Neville Chamberlain, and he was considered and that's where most of us first learned the term appeaser, because he was condemned as a appeaser. And now Joe Kennedy Sr. originally had ambitions for the presidency himself. And there were rumors that he was going to challenge FDR in 1940. And when he was called back from England, and I'm sure chewed out over his appeaser talk, and Churchill hated him and wanted him out of England, and what are you hanging around that Neville Chamberlain appeaser? And but we don't know what happened. But after the meeting, Joe Kennedy Jr. came out a different man, suddenly endorsed FDR. So I don't know what they told him. Did they give him the talk for the first time there or whatever? Because he was bad-mouthing FDR left and right in England. And, that's what was making him enemies. But a lot of people liked him for it because they didn't like FDR either. So I'd like to know what happened behind closed doors there. But after that, that's when he turned his eye on Joe Kennedy Jr. When he realized, okay, something they told him, you can never run for president. And so that's when he turned to his oldest son, who would have been incredible. It was already heading into politics. He was in 1944, he was a delegate to the Democratic National Convention. He would have run for Congress the same year JFK did. When he was killed, he turned to JFK, who was kind of supposedly sickly, more of a bookish guy. He was an introvert, believe it or not, and he wanted to be a writer. And but again, that's how much JFK respected his father. That he never resented him for pushing him into politics. He said, the old man loves me, and he said, he doesn't lie to me, and he just, he basically said, you have to do this. And you talk about a remarkable transformation. If you look at the young JFK, he's skinny and fun-loving, and womanizer, and just wants to party all the time, doesn't get good grades, and he became this incredible statesman that I think was our last great statesman.
Yes, I think you're right. Although Nixon did say, my personal belief going later with Nixon is that he wasn't meant to stop the Vietnam War, and he did. And that's why he got the Watergate thing, because he did say a lot about the non-Irish in his tapes.
Yeah, behind closed doors. Yeah, he was talking about, and he also talked about the assassination in code. He always referred to it as the Bay of Pigs thing. But everyone knew that the Bay of Pigs thing was the JFK assassination. So Nixon, there's no question. Len Kolodny was a friend of mine who wrote Silent Coup. I used to talk to him on the phone regularly before he passed away a few years ago. Very nice guy, and very helpful to me. He tried to help me out in my own work. Tried to turn me on to a big agent and everything. So he's a very nice guy. But when Silent Coup came out, that changed everybody's opinions of Watergate, because he's the one that first said, no, John Dean wasn't the good guy. Alexander Haig was bad, and these people, these were Nixon was being set up, and this was a coup, a silent coup.
Yeah, it's terrible. And when you look at it after Nixon, everything went completely pear-shaped after that, really. But
he had a famous phone call with what's the name? The pastor.
Billy Graham.
Yeah. It was after that, I think he really got targeted. For removal.
Well, Billy Graham talked a lot about Jewish power, but the problem, the non-Irish power.
He was a spy. He was a spy for them.
Yeah, well, he became the first really big modern evangelical pastor. He's the one that opened Israel to all these crazy Zionist Christians, and he transformed Christianity to where it became something Christian to go over to the Middle East and you put your kiss the Wailing Wall and stuff like that, and immerse yourself in all this Jewish stuff when it had nothing to do with Christianity, because they rejected Christ. But somehow, but in private, talking to Nixon, he was just complaining about all the Jewish power and everything. But he was either a spy. Yeah, I mean, as Patrick said, he was either a spy or he was a typical hypocrite of the times who didn't have the courage to say it in public.
I found out something interesting about LBJ last night. I was talking to Mary Fagan, who's the great niece of little Mary Fagan.
That's really something.
And that marks the beginning point of the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith, Jewish Freemasons. And they're a big force to this day. But Lyndon Johnson helped to advocate for pardoning posthumously Leo Frank.
Leo Frank.
Yeah, I didn't know that. She told me about that last night. And
I would love to talk to her if she's willing to. Boy, I'd love to have her on my show.
Yeah, I'll send you the contact information for her.
Yeah,
she's good. Yeah, you should have her on your show too, Chris. Just to get an idea, because it coincides that whole story of Mary Fagan happened in 1913, which is when the Federal Reserve Act was passed.
Yep.
Oh.
And it became the big story that overtook it, so that if you were challenging the bankers and their ethnicity, that was a way for them to strong arm getting the Federal Reserve Act passed, because if you defamed them and their character, it was tied into the legend of America. You even had people like D.W. Griffith in 1915, 2 years after Mary Fagan was killed, making the film
Birth of a
Nation.
Birth of a Nation, yes.
Which covers the Mary Fagan murder, because it reverses the role. It fictionalizes it, but it's a black man that gets lynched by the Ku Klux Klan after he murders a little girl, a little white girl.
I didn't know that. Okay, wow.
Yeah, and so it was financed by the same people that were promoting World War I, essentially.
Yeah, Woodrow Wilson showed it in the White House. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rocky Road to Love says Russian and Italian mafia have nothing on the non-Irish banking mafia.
Yeah, Meyer Lansky, sure. And that's why, when we talk about all this stuff, I like to give a shout out to Michael Collins Piper, who was a great researcher, and he wrote the book. It's becoming more and more essential now, Final Judgment, which was, I think he had to have privately published because no one would publish it. Maybe Liberty Lobby published it, but he was condemned in the JFK research community for a long time as an anti-Semite, and he was the first one to look at Israel. He was the first one to expose the fact that JFK was at war with David Ben-Gurion over them developing nuclear weapons. I don't know if he knew about AIPAC and RFK, Attorney General, trying to get them to register 6 times as a foreign agent, but he's the first one that looked at Dimona and all that stuff. And for a long time, he was, you couldn't mention his name. I'd mention it, and people get mad that I even said his name. Now everybody's talking about it, and they still won't credit the guy. So I always bring him up. Hey, can you give a little shout, because the guy died way before his time, kind of strangely in my view, and he didn't live to see, some of his work be justified, in terms of people finally accepting, because now everybody recognizes that there was some kind of Israeli component. The JFK files that were released last year, where Tulsi Gabbard, in one of her best acts, got rid of all the redactions, and all the redactions that were removed from these files, every one of them had to do with Israel or James, especially James Jesus Angleton.
What Mary Fagan was telling me last night about LBJ being part of the Anti-Defamation League is just nail in the coffin in a way too, because it was the Israeli lobby that you don't get more Israeli lobby in America than the Anti-Defamation League.
No,
the Anti-Constipation League over here. But that now Exo says that whole Chamberlain situation, where they love showing him as a sucker waving a bit of posh chit-chat paper, has been falsely represented in modern history. Yes, I agree. He was well liked, Chamberlain, and I think he was done in. He died very mysteriously.
Well, yeah, it was when Churchill came into power that they bombed Freiburg and started World War II.
Interesting. Well, with that bombing of Freiburg, that is, you don't find that. I only found that out from you, Patrick. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, you can read about it in David Irving's book on Dresden.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's because that's quite a book, David Irving's book, and
63 is when that came out.
Well, when you look at it, Churchill was an MP for Chinkford, which is a little tiny place, just on the outskirts of London then, and he went from that to becoming Prime Minister. And when you look at who financed him, you soon find out why he rose to those extreme. He's paid off. He's just a bought Prime Minister, because Churchill is, again, he destroyed this country, but he's looked on as a hero. Why? Because quite honestly, we needn't have got involved in World War II.
Was it Black Friday, Donald, that Churchill came over here to the stock market? He was like right on the floor with Bernard Baruch.
You know a lot, Patrick. I didn't know that much, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. But if you look at Churchill's history, he went from being quite an anti-Semite himself in his youth. He was a fan of Nesta Webster, who wrote the definitive history of World War I and wrote it from a real perspective. She was a revisionist historian before there was any. And Churchill quoted her very favorably and talked about, how great, and you mentioned the Jews by name over and over again. Power. And then I don't know what happened. I guess somebody had to talk with him, and then that's when his career took off, when he changed dramatically and became, became the man we know and love. But typically, if you look back again in history, it doesn't pay to be against war. It doesn't matter what war it is. The people that push war, that's why Lincoln is considered our greatest president when he's our greatest tyrant. FDR is considered great. Wilson's considered great. Maybe Trump eventually will be if he keeps pushing the Iran war. I don't know. He's got so much garbage, baggage. But JFK was the only peace president we've had, really the only one. And it does not pay to be for peace. And
what about Nixon, though? I mean, quite honestly, he was a Quaker, wasn't he?
Well, he was a Quaker, but he had Vietnam, and he the light at the end of the tunnel and all that. And again, he had Henry Kissinger there as his national security advisor. The worst person you can possibly have, who won a Nobel Peace Prize while pushing war. And
he was vice president under Eisenhower.
Was he?
In the 50s.
Yes,
I didn't know that. But you see, the thing is, you've got a point there about the wars. And it's true what George Carlin said. Oh, he said, we love war. And I think he was right.
Yeah.
When you think about it. And of course, they are now trying to bear bait Russia into a war. And they'll have one. This idea that Russia wants to expand into Europe is nonsense. They're just taking back what they own, really, which is Ukraine, parts of Ukraine.
I've got an interesting interview I'm going to do tomorrow with James Perloff, who's been. I heard him on.
He's
what time would that be? What time would that be?
I'm not sure yet. I'm still talking with him, so he's got time tomorrow to do it. So I'll definitely record it and post it, so you'll get a copy. He did a broadcast with Timothy Kelly of our Interesting Times podcast, where he's been researching for years the Lindbergh baby kidnapping and murder.
Yeah.
Which, since I've got... Sorry, you're breaking up a bit there, Donald. What did you say?
I think we lost him.
Donald's breaking up.
Let's have a look.
I heard you breaking up. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's coming back a bit now.
Yeah, you're breaking up for us there, Donald.
Oh, were you? Oh, okay. I heard you guys breaking up. I don't know.
Yeah.
What were his thoughts on the Lindbergh kidnapping?
Yeah.
Well, usual suspects, the non-Irish, is what he concluded, and I conclude the same thing based on what I've researched with him and the Lindbergh.
I missed the part. What did he conclude? What does he conclude?
You're breaking up. So I'm just saying he concluded the non-Irish.
Okay. Yes.
You'll have to listen to it. You should definitely listen to the Tim Kelly broadcast he did, and I'll record my interview with him because I want to discuss some things that I've learned about that case as well, because it was very pivotal for Charles Lindbergh Jr., who wanted to run for president at a time when he was just about to do that. And that more or less made it possible for FDR to become president. He was kind of like a Charlie Kirk in a way, but not. He was actually more set because of his father to become president and have the whole institution of the Federal Reserve after him, the non-Irish at Federal Reserve that wanted to do him in. Mm-hmm. So you got to look at the motive and opportunity of what took place in it. And James, I want to pick his brain more about what he's read about it, because I've read quite a few things, and particularly the autobiography about Charles Sr. and his run-in.
The Airman and the Carpenter is very good, and Scapegoat's good.
Yeah? Are you talking about Perloff?
No, No, I'm talking about the Lindbergh kidnapping. Those two books are really good on it, and the Hoax of the 20th Century. I think it's what it's called. It's good too, where the authors theorized that it was a practical joke gone astray. That Lindbergh was a great practical joker.
Right,
and,
but
and then I don't know, but they're very.
There's an even more evil one that James Perloff was talking about, where they said that he purposely killed his own son because he wasn't Aryan enough. They tried to make him out because they make him out to be a eugenicist and all this kind of crazy stuff after the fact.
Yeah.
Where it's so there are a lot of
I would definitely wouldn't say that,
demonizations.
but yeah,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
absolutely.
But when you look at what we're being told and what people still believe, I mean, there's people around where I live that are still getting their God knows how many jabs now for COVID, and you think, what's wrong with these people? But the fact of the matter is that our enemies, our enemy of the people, have got command of the biggest weapon ever, and that is the media, and people believe the media, and that's
Well,
it. That's the problem.
I that's why that's such an important function of the media to be able to deplatform people from participating in the media, which is where we were talking about the Anti-Defamation League here in America being one of the biggest deplatformers that we have, where they'll go to the FBI, they'll go to the Facebook or Google, and they'll say, we want this person deplatformed from YouTube, for instance. And that's what happened. There was a big purge in 2019 of people who had been on YouTube, and they couldn't justify it based on logic. They had to then turn to the psyop of medical misinformation with the COVID scam that took place.
Well, I had about 20 of my videos taken down, and I was banned 6 times, sorry, I think. They're not so bad now, YouTube, but they used to be really
They're
bad.
a little better now.
Yeah, I guess you, Donald, I guess you were booted off of YouTube a couple of times, as well. But this is the problem. But really, when you're looking at where things are going now, communism won World War II without a shadow of doubt, and despite what is happening, I'm optimistic because good will always, and the truth will always find a way through. So I'm optimistic, and it looks dark at the moment, but I don't know. Something might happen which we least expect. But I don't know what's happening with Trump at the moment. I mean, he looks very ill man.
And he'll be replaced someday. He's a boomer. He'll end up dying one day, and someone will take his place. That's the question. Like, who in the next generation is going to take the place of...
Well, they say he's going to be the last president, don't they? They say we're going to have the last pope now and the last president. So who knows? But I wonder, they've been talking about having the last pope for donkey's years. That's not a new one. I don't think it's in the hidden hand, shall we call them, interest to start a war just yet. I think that's going to come in a couple of years' time, in about 2030, something like that. But it's just, I don't know. It just gets me. It seems that the whole West is just going bonkers at the same time. That's it. Yeah. Anyway,
I think.
Sorry,
go
carry
ahead.
on. No, carry on.
I think it's positive too, because we're able to communicate like we are now. I think that's what they're afraid of. The people who would otherwise have us.
That's right.
Be afraid of them.
Well, I was going to say, Donald, thank you very much for coming on. It's 11 o'clock here at night, so my bed is sort of beckoning.
Okay.
I hope you had a good meal today. I hope it was a good night's scoff, as we say. Whoa, not scoff. I mean, actually, there's a slot tomorrow if you're interested. But if you're free, there's a slot.
Can I make a request?
Certainly.
Can I play a song before we go?
Yes, certainly.
Donald, you remember Woody Guthrie?
Sure.
Okay, so Woody Guthrie did a song about Charles Lindbergh. I'd like you and
Certainly.
Chris to listen to.
Okay.
So
Sure.
let
I remember
me
Woody Guthrie, yes.
cue it up. I'm going to play it right now.
Mr. Charlie Lindbergh, he flew to old Berlin, got him a big iron cross, and he flew right back again to Washington, Washington. Mrs. Charlie Lindbergh, she come dressed in red, but I'd like to sleep in that pretty White House bed in Washington, Washington. Lindy said to Annie, we'll get there by and by, but we'll have to split the bed up with Wheeler, Clark, and I in Washington, Washington. Hitler wrote to Lindy, said, do your very worst. Lindy started an outfit that he called America First in Washington, Washington. All around the country, Lindbergh he did fly. Gasoline was paid for by Hoover, Clark, and I in Washington, Washington. Lindy said to Hoover, we'll do the same as France. Make a deal with Hitler, and then we'll get our chance in Washington, Washington. Then they had a meeting, and all the firsters come on a walk, and they come on a run in Washington, Washington. Yonder comes Father Coughlin wearing the silver chain, cast on his stomach and Hitler on the brain in Washington, Washington. Mr. John L. Lewis was sitting astraddle a fence. His daughter signed with Lindbergh, and we ain't seen her since in Washington, Washington. Hitler said to Lindy, stall them all you can. Going to bomb Pearl Harbor with the help of old Japan in Washington, Washington. Then on a December morning, the bums come from Japan. Wake Island and Pearl Harbor killed 1,500 men in Washington, Washington. Now Lindy tried to join the army, but they wouldn't let him in. Afraid it'd sell to Hitler a few more million men in Washington, Washington. So I'm gonna tell you people, if Hitler's gonna be beat, common working people has got to take the seat in Washington, Washington. And I'm gonna tell you workers, before you cash in your checks, they say America first, but they mean America next in Washington, Washington.
Wow.
Wow. Patrick, you have a really breadth of knowledge I thought I knew about Woody Guthrie. Boy, that exposes him completely. That's for sure. Wow.
That's quite something. And it's funny because now EXO's come out with something, which is quite interesting. Which there's a whole theory around the time that the cross-Atlantic or similar records setting flights were done in the early free energy plane motor. I don't know about that. I.e., field distance, etc., didn't work out. Well, I don't know. Know anything about that, Patrick? Donald? Don't know.
No, I haven't heard that one.
No, I haven't heard that one.
I'm amazed at the song.
To you one thing, in the 1950s, apparently, there was a huge pressure group in this country, and it was big, that wanted Britain to become one of the states of America. Seriously. That is, they were pressurizing government a lot to make Britain another state of America. Because remember, in 1950s, we were just getting over the World War II, and it wasn't a particularly pleasant place to live in Great Britain. You know, we had rationing and things like that. And but it's surprising how times change and things like that. But anyway, Donald, it's been a fantastic. Sorry,
I have one comment before we go that I'd like to make about Woody Guthrie. He was also an influence. I think him and Pete Seeger and Bob Dylan were like part of a crowd of songwriters that ended up becoming the propagandists for the same people. It's interesting because, like I said about my family, the LaFond side of the family grew up very close to him. Like my great-grandfather grew up with Charles Lindbergh Jr., the aviator, in Little Falls, Minnesota, and they used to be very close to each other. My great uncle, so his son, Gino, is good friends with Bob Dylan, like made friendship with him. And so there's kind of a tie-in between that whole generational gap that took place. But I find it very interesting because the family ended up becoming embarrassed as a consequence of the entering the war, and then he just kind of faded into memory in a way. So it's a whole story in and of itself. But I'd like to talk with you about it sometime, Donald, in the future.
Well,
so.
I would have if I was an American in the 1930s, I'd have been against America coming into a European war.
Sure.
It's nothing to do with America out. I mean, and it was they were tricked into the war, like they were tricked into the First World War with the Lusitania. So it's all shall we say smoke and what they call it, smoke and mirrors and that type of stuff.
Yeah,
it really, and the biggest tyrant I still think is Churchill.
Mm-hmm.
He is responsible. He had blood on his hands. The amount of deaths because of Churchill is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
But anyway, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks,
tonight.
Patrick, for sharing that. Thank you, Eric, for having it. I love doing your show.
Well, likewise, I like you coming on. There's a free spot tomorrow if you're free.
Well, what is it? The same time?
Same time, yeah, 3:00 your time.
Okay, I see what I can do. Send me the link, or you say it's always the same link?
Yes, same link every time.
Okay,
But,
okay.
yeah.
I'll see what I can. I'll see if I can.
Okay, and tomorrow, as I say, nothing's really booked tomorrow, so it'll be an open microphone. And as I hope you had a good meal today. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you very much.
When I was a kid, it was my birthday. My mum always used to go, was it jelly and ice cream she used to give me, because that was my favourites, jelly and ice cream. And,
Simple things in life.
well, that's right. Do you get Cornish ice cream in America? I bet you don't.
Don't even know what it is.
Don't even know what that is now.
Cornish ice cream is there's a special. They have Cornish cows, and they do this ice cream in Cornwall, and it's absolutely delicious. But you have, shall we say, industrialized Cornish ice cream.
Oh, I'll have ice cream and cooking a cake later. So, well,
very nice. Oh. I tell you, my
happy
favorite
belated birthday. Happy 70th. That's good.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, anyway, if you come on, you'll be most welcome, both of you fellas.
Appreciate that.
And we're having a really interesting show. And we got a hell of a lot of topics and that. And as I say, thank you very much for joining us.
Take care, guys.
We'll be on tomorrow at the same time.
Okay.
And please put the thumbs up.
Okay, see you all later.
Consider subscribing. And whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh.